Okay, my boys, do you remember the veil of invisibility? See, right here? Anyone who's looking for a source, type in veil of invisibility Alexander Putney in your browser of choice, okay? And then you will find this. This is an invaluable resource. I have a lot of them, I know, but this is one of them. Okay, so we read part 1, remember? We learned all about Tesla, learned all about the Schurfs, we learned about Curious George, we learned about Otto, we learned about invisibility, we learned about the copper pennies, we learned about all the melted people who melted into the floors of, they melted. They did not evaporate or apparate like in Harry Potter, but they did melt. They were melted like you were heating food up. Anyway, then we also learned about UFOs. We learned that this is where... Dude, this is where all the Nancys keep their gold. This is where Taylor's family hides the gold that they stole. Okay, this is where this is the secret tunnel where they keep their gold. It's in Montana, Glacier National Park. See, that's Lake McDonald. It's right there. It's actually right there. Okay, you see that? This is a frickin' flying saucer that's cloaked with frickin' plasma, Tesla's plasma. That's at Lake McDonald, just saying. Contrails and weather modding is happening. This is what one of their drones looks like. When it runs out of power, it has to go charge by telephone wires and power lines. It just sucks energy out of them. It's kind of awesome, actually. It's based on all of Tesla's stuff with magnets and, yeah, the moon. No, it's a funny joke. All these people are still fine. Look, see, there's most of them. There's so many of them, dude. Look, this guy became our president. And right here in this picture, he's in Berlin, where he grew up. Or Frankfurt, probably. This guy, still alive. Whose kid is this? Come on, guys, you can figure it out. Tell me. Or whose grandpa is this, I mean? Look, this is the guy who killed Tesla. This guy right here. And this is before he became an American asset and worked for the CIA then for the rest of his life. Yep. They're all here. Look, here he is, Galen. Him and this guy, Skorzeny, they both Tesla after this guy. This guy, Little George, after he took all of his secrets because he worked for him. Look, this is Schmittler. Anyway, dude, I was just saying all this because we haven't gone through part 3 yet, and it's about time, okay? So we're going to read through this probably one page at a time, okay? Get ready. Buckle in, because I wasn't going to read this on camera, and then I started reading it, and I was like, nope, guess I got to read it on camera. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. The CIA Oracle. Out of the darkness of U.S. government black projects shines a brilliant light that has become a beacon of truth to guide a traumatized and fearful nation toward the path of health, peace, and compassion. She is a seer, a clairvoyant medium used primarily by successive CIA directors operating covertly under the codename Oracle. She has lived a double life against her will as the foremost remote viewer for the CIA, living under constant torture and the threat of death, and as a California physician residing in Costa Mesa and San Diego. Sue Arrigo was a licensed California medical doctor with specialized training in nephrology until leaving her CIA cover life in 2006 in a successful move to publicize her detailed insider knowledge to avert the planned global nuclear war by preemptive strike. Dr. Arrigo's profound perspective has been developed during her 40 years of experience as a remote viewer, involved in many of the most crucial and most sensitive post-World War II U.S. government projects since the age of 9. As a mind control product of the CIA, Project MK Ultron 2, Arrigo's unique mental abilities have preserved her life through the most lethal and sadistic U.S. government experiments and forced international espionage work. Her compelling writings present a true breadth of knowledge and a purity of heart that informs her very spiritual ethics. Dr. Arrigo's detailed scientific explanations of the holographic mind state quite convincingly support her astounding personal history. Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Arrigo, Sue's father, was an Army officer during World War I, whose family was targeted for MK Ultra 2 operations being conducted in the late 1950s by the Presidio Army base in San Francisco, California, and elsewhere in the Bay Area to this day. The main architect of the Bush administration's legal policy, lawyer John Yoo, stated publicly that the U.S. administration reserves the right to torture innocent children by crushing their huevos in the war on terror. The children are being tortured routinely. That is why the U.S. administration reserves the right to torture innocent children. If we do not protect American children from such tortures, we are traitors to our country. Agreed. The following are excerpts from Mind Control Torture Survivor at the Presidio Preschool. Myself. My own enslavement started at age 3 at the San Francisco Presidio Army Base where my father, Lieutenant Colonel Joseph Arrigo, was stationed. Children were trained for CIA espionage starting quite early in life because scientific research showed that children are most naturally violent, not as teenagers but between ages 2 and 4. That Army Base's preschool was one of at least 3 later found to be under the control of U.S. military Satanists. A Defense Intelligence Psychological Operation Officer, Colonel Michael Aquino, a self-proclaimed Satanist, was charged with SAing children at the Presidio's preschool, and there was extensive pornographic evidence of that. However, the case evaporated after it hit the newspapers and the courts for unknown reasons. I sat down and quietly drew with crayons long straight lines of color, even and orderly. The lady came by and asked me what I was drawing. I looked up at her to see if it was safe to tell her what the picture was and frowned. I wanted to cry but couldn't. I knew that I would be beaten by my father if I told her. I could feel the chill of fear up my spine, so I lied and said that they were just colored lines. I never told anyone the truth, which was much too dangerous. Those lines were the people that I had seen killed. Those lines were the people killed in front of me in the experiment to see if civilians could get to a radiation shelter and take a 4-year-old into one too. Now they were lines, 1 line per body, so that I could hide that I was drawing people. No arms, no legs, no heads. Just straight, rigid lines like the rigor mortis that I had seen them in the basement. I tried to tell my mother, but she wouldn't listen. Okay, I guess page 2 in a minute. Gosh freaking dang it, dude. I just got myself a nice, clean little new setup here where I don't have to move my computer. See, I'm just putting this on a stander, and I just recorded this whole chapter without my fucking mic turned on, okay? So if I'm a little chippy, this is why, okay? Here we go. A tear fell into the paper between the straight lines, and I brushed it quickly away before the kind lady could see. When I looked up at her again, she had a quizzical look on her face. If you tell me what you are drawing, I'll give you a glass of orange juice, she said. I looked down again at the drawing and tried to think of what to say. Whatever I said, she would write it down, and it would be thrown back at me by the mind control doctors in endless repetitions, in tapes, in the preschool nap times. Looking at the picture again, I said, this is a yellow line. This is a red line next to it. That afternoon, at the nap time, my earphones played in a continuous loop. This is a yellow line, R-worded by a red line. The yellow line is angry. The yellow line must K-word the red line. K-word the red line. K-word the red line. It is bad. And I had been so careful about what I had said. I had stopped playing with the dolls. I had stopped saying, Mommy, I want my mommy. And dude, this is what they would do, man. They would, first off, they do this to children. Yes, that's the most fucked up thing that I have discovered about all of this, is that they do it to children because it's easier to do. Hold on, you'll see in a second. While residents in the San Francisco Bay Area remain largely ignorant of the mind control programs enrolling their children in a regular basis. In a basement too, though. The news media had quite effectively hidden CIA involvement in the 2007 Father's Day family shooting in Berkeley and the false conviction of mind control victim Susan Polk. Sue Arrigo has defended herself by publishing her testimony in draft form online in 2006. As a coerced remote viewing asset of the U.S. government, I was forced against my will to work for the U.S. military intelligence agencies, starting from childhood under CIA, DIA, Operation Monkey Ultron 2. That sub-project to develop remote viewing spies involved sexually torturing children to split their minds. Yes, Just like the fucking M. Night Shyamalan movie Split. Or have you seen the frickin' Tom Holland TV show that was pretty good? It was an Apple show. Go watch it. You'll also see what it takes to have a person's brain split to protect themselves from the horror that they're witnessing, okay? Think about that. These people, these elites, literally sit all day in an office and they say, how can I brutally torture Admiral Rick's kid down the hall here? How do I brutally torture his kid so that I can create 11 different minds inside of him? Let's see if I could do something so brutal to create 100 minds in Admiral Rick's kid. So that's what they do, dude. All these Satanist people, they believe that it's good and okay to do this stuff to kids because they're creating super spies. I don't know, but this is exactly what, like, dude, I would bet Lollipop for sure, probably Winky on Taylor being one of these. Just Pearly Things is one of these. That's why they're like dead, man. Everyone's like, oh man, did Just Pearly Things, did Chaya Raichik just hit the blunt? No, dude, her mind is split, literally. She is like Split, the M. Night Shyamalan movie, not a joke, okay? It is often the case that one personality of a multiple is a good remote viewer. See Dissociative Identity Disorder by Colin Ross. Additionally, it is usually possible to make the regular person amnesiac for both the torture and the subsequent government-controlled operations by regular repetition of horrendous trauma that the mind is unable to digest. You remember what this is called? Psychic driving. It's just where they keep saying the same thing over again until apparently you believe it. They say over and over again, a million times in a row, on a loop. Kill your mother, kill your mother, kill your mother. It's like literally the cliche that everyone thinks about when they think Monkey Ultron. But think about this. You're strapped to a chair for months, and this just keeps going. All through your sleep, every waking moment. This makes people nuts. And that's just what they're doing. They're literally just experimenting and mostly torturing people, but worse, tiny children. Do you remember what EBE said about children? That we don't joke about children. That's the only thing. We fucking take care of kids. We don't. Our military does not. EBE is pissed, for sure. He's pissed off about how they treated their kids, because I know that they did not treat those kids good. There's no way those kids are still alive. The alien children, they were drank within a week, calling it. Additionally, it is usually possible to make the regular person amnesiac for both the torture and the subsequent government-controlled operations by regular repetition of horrendous trauma that the mind is unable to digest. Because I had known and respected accuracy rating as a remote viewer at age 9 during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the U.S. used me to view the minds of Castro and Khrushchev. After extensive debriefing on the particulars, I was questioned by President Kennedy on their intentions. At age 10, I was sent to Moscow with the U.S. negotiating team for the limited test ban treaties, concluding negotiations. As a remote viewer with a high accuracy rating for over 40 years, I have monitored WMD and engaged in critical U.S. negotiations to regulate them, often as a person behind the scenes to figure out what terms one can actually get everyone to agree to while the negotiators haggle over the points of contention. I have been actively involved in Limited Test Ban Treaty, Non-Proliferation Treaty, Biological Weapons Convention, SALT I and SALT II, and the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty negotiations because I was a covert asset of the CIA. My true name was not used in any of those situations. Okay, here we go. We're going to part 3. Come find us in a second, okay? Oh yeah, and if you guys want to see real quick, let me show you exactly the setup here. This is the setup that the military men are volunteering their children for. Have you guys ever seen A Clockwork Orange? It's literally like A Clockwork Orange, okay? This, like, imagine the eyes are being held open like this. Yep, like literally that. And then imagine a worse setup. Imagine a worse setup where you're actually tucked in a coffin or like a morgue drawer, and then Peter Thiel's on the other end with a tube that goes literally just into your mouth hole, and he goes, you want to eat children, children, eat children. He's like, I'm Peter, child eater, and you want to eat some children with me. Yep. So anyway, yep, this is what they did, dude. And then if you see here, yep, you go in the padded room and then you are not loving life, okay? So this is what they would do. This is what they are still doing. Imagine the horror that they're pulling now. And Neuralink is part of it, just so you know. Whatever's happening, the worst of it is happening at Neuralink. Just saying, in my opinion. All right, come find part 3. The fucking audio better be on this one. Dude, what are the freaking chances that, like, one of your elementary school teachers when you were growing up, probably the one who was a pain in the ass, you know? What if they were actually a CIA agent who was psychologically traumatizing you and torturing you to see if you were maybe susceptible to having a split personality, like bipolar type situation, so they could utilize that against you and against humanity to turn you into a killer or an assassin? Do you think that maybe one of your teachers was like that? Because if you're a nitwitch and you live in America or grew up in America, I'd say the chances are pretty high, because a few nitwitches here have started to think that maybe their elementary school teachers were like these teachers that were actually just trying to recruit kids into Monkey Ultron for the government so that they could be R-worded and tortured by literal Satanists. That self-described Satanists, like Michael Aquino. Anyway, this is part 3 of the CIA's Oracle, okay? Go find parts 1 and 2, and then 4 through 100 after this. I don't know how many there will be, okay? Ready? Here we go! The Arrigo family history of intelligence and human rights activism runs deep. In 2003, I joined the Association of Former Current Intelligence Officers, member number 4843. My sister Jean Maria Arrigo is also a member. She is currently a social psychologist writing papers to help improve ethics in the military intelligence community. My third sister, Linda Gale Arrigo, is a sociologist who is famous in Taiwan for her courageous human rights work to restore democratic representation to the Taiwanese. My mother, who was a U.S. and controlled spy for the U.S. government in World War II, has been active in San Diego politics and was on the mayor's advisory committee on women's issues. I have been a remote viewing psychokinesis trainer of U.S. military intelligence officers since I was 17 years old. Most of that training was done for the Office of Naval Intelligence, ONI, with lesser amounts for the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, and Pentagon, and the Mossad. Interesting. Even though it's for a different country? Weird. Although I was often used directly by directors of the CIA, from Helms to Tenet as a remote viewer, I did little training of CIA officers in these skills. That was mainly because, having been tortured by the CIA since childhood, I did not want to give them my skills. Yeah, hell yeah. At the end of the Cold War, the CIA loaned me to the Russian government to help them recover missing WMD and radioactive materials. So I have also trained some Russian SVR officers in skills needed to recover WMD and to correct pollution problems. In addition, in about 1980, I spent a brief amount of time training some of Scotland Yard's counterintelligence officers in psychic tracking. The way I train officers in these skills is completely different from Ingo Swann's method, used by the Stargate military remote viewing unit at Fort Detrick. I only train people in intensive residential retreats of at least a week long. The induction into the Akashic records is quick with the technique that I developed, and is done in the first day. Ooh. It is also a bit of a shock to the system, like changing pressure when diving underwater. Many people have nausea, emotion liability, and temporary physical system as their energy fields adjust. The rest of the week is spent on training them in analytic techniques to understand what they see in a reliable fashion, while they adapt to having a mind that is no longer limited to the confines of their body. Bro, we all need to go take a crash course with our girl, Sue Arrigo. Because of my remote viewing skills, I have not infrequently been a target for kidnapping by intelligence agencies wanting my services. Dude, this lady rules. Hold on. Thus, I have been kidnapped several times by the KGB, at least once by the Mossad, and repeatedly by the CIA. For example, in 1993, when the US had men missing in action in Somalia, I was picked up where I was house sitting for a local judge in Claremont, San Diego, California, and taken to the nearby Camp Pendleton war room to locate the missing men on a map. Other times I have been picked up to deal with accidental release of biowarfare germs, environmental problems so severe that the US government doesn't want the scientists to know of them. In the last 20 years, I have worked on many of these severe environmental problems successfully. Do you see, guys? Do you see how we are so on the verge of always dying because we let these people be in charge of us? They are going to release COVID-6 soon. They're going to release something on accident, or the bubonic plague, because they have that, and they're all arrogant. They have no systems to keep us from getting these diseases. So this will happen. It's only a matter of when, or we can stop them and take all that shit away from them. But I don't know, it's up to you guys, unless you want to die from the bubonic plague, right? In the summer of 2004, I was the supervisor and coordinator for teams of remote viewers from the ONI and the DIA tasked to solve pollution problems so severe that they could threaten the sustainability of the planet. At that time, we also had ONI officers training groups of Russians in our methods with the cooperation of the Russian government. We had 14 teams of about 8 people each, with each group solving their problem in about a week. The U.S. administration had promised to give us an agency and centrally located building in which to do this work for the health of the planet that, in my absence, was largely fallen by the wayside. With strong faith, one can solve such problems in a week with a team of 8 viewers working on in a residential retreat setting without contact from the outside world for that period of time. That's good to know, nitwitches, right? And just heads up, tomorrow we are going to go through our results. So if you still have not remote viewed and submitted your results, you can click on my link tree and you can go do it now. Try and remote view the red numbers, the blue numbers, the green numbers, the red shapes, the blue shapes, the green shapes, and where the nitwitches are hiding the thing, okay? And then submit it in the Google poll, dude. We have 7. Let's get 20, okay? Tomorrow at 6. Anyway, as a graduate student in mathematics at University of California at San Diego, I studied real and complex analysis and passed the qualifying exams at the PhD level. During that time, in about 1978, the CIA asked me to go over, sorry, that's been under me for a little bit, to go over to the adjacent General Dynamics nuclear research facility to figure out what was wrong with their plasma generator. It had been inoperable for about almost 6 months. That started my long-term relationship with quantum physics and reactors, using my remote viewing skills and the mathematics of quantum physics. Dude, are you guys freaking excited for part 4? Because it's going to be freaking incredible, okay? Here it comes. See how everything is connected? Physics, spirituality, remote viewing, dude, the government ruining everything. It's all connected, boys. All right, see you in a minute. All right, we're chipping away, my little skeeby bops. Part 4 of the CIA's Oracle, okay? Go watch 1 through 3, and then part 5 through 600. Applied field theory, I was able to quickly solve the problem of the plasma generator. After that, I had many requests for my help from private nuclear companies. The CIA set up a front company to handle these requests and keep my identity secret. Mostly, I was called in when all more conventional avenues of solving a problem had been exhausted, or to keep reactors working without downtime by viewing the appropriate maintenance to do in advance. Dude, this lady is awesome. The money from this work was put into a Swiss bank account via the CIA, reinforcing my enslavement through financial controls, as I just do not know how to access my accounts because of the amnesia induced by repeated torture and hypnotic suggestions. Dude, this is how everyone is kept in the escorting rings, the Epstein, DC Madam escorting rings, literally this exact way. There are people who pretend like they're your boyfriend. There's a person that I talked to who for 20 years thought that her boyfriend was her boyfriend, and then realized only recently that person was actually a Fed. And his job was to, every time she tried to get out of escorting, he would conveniently make her life awful in ways where it took her 20 years to put together that he was the cause of all of the issues, and he would do it whenever she was trying to stop. Okay? So this is a known tactic. This is a control method because they can't remote view, and she doesn't want a remote view for them. So they have to force her to, because again, like always, dude, their only play is to cheat. They have to cheat. They can only cheat to win. That's the only way they win, and they always win. So anyway, motherfuckers. I have done experimental physics research in cooperation with the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Center for many years. All that work and the resultant published papers have been under a pseudonym. My work, however, is distinct because I developed my own notation for applied field theory. Instead of operators working on elements of the group, the elements are self-realizing. That is to say that each element does what comes naturally to it according to its modus operandi, and there is not a dualism between operator and element. This greatly simplifies many problems and allows quick and sometimes startling results. Those results on a theoretical level were proven in experiments at Princeton to be correct. That is not surprising, given that the world works according to how your mind conceives of it, and I designed the experiments. I wrote a book of mathematics on applied field theory using the nomenclature and notation of self-realizing elements. It was published by Springer Verling Wiley under an alias. Dude, we gotta find that book. We gotta find these explanations, because I can tell by the way that they write that they are telling the truth and they are like an expert. You know what I mean? It's like the same feeling you get from reading EBE. It's like a military dolt who thinks like a dumb, chud can't write stuff like this. And there's no way this is like, dude, this is awesome. It's so cool that this stuff is real. Truly. I sat staring at spoons and shit when I was a kid for hours trying to do Matilda shit with my mind. I swear to God, if I would have just stuck with it, man, I probably could do it now. My training as a physician has been extensive. I went to medical school, first year of internal medicine residency, and a nephrology fellowship at the University of California's Irvine Medical Center, spanning 1972 to 1985, including a year of internal medicine residency at Morristown, New Jersey, combined with a year of occupational medicine at Columbia University in New York City, 1982 to 1983. I practiced occupational medicine from 1986 to 2003 and was the medical director of Management Health Services for almost all of those years until they went bankrupt during a long strike of one of our clients. Currently, I hold a California medical license. Dude, this lady is prolific. This is a crazy career and like crazy long, crazy prestigious, right? And you're about to tell me that this lady, this doctor, is going to talk about remote viewing and psychic abilities? A doctor? Okay. All right, I'm listening. I think that's what she's doing. She's setting it up, I think she's about to drop some hot knowledge after this. So she's trying to say, hey, I'm just saying these other people gave me a doctorate and I'm saying this shit. You know what I mean? Okay, so let's see what she has to say. Having trained in occupational medicine with coursework in toxicology, the CIA and related agencies and companies have consulted me about a number of biohazards. I also did some research in psychic healing at Walter Reed Hospital. That led to my interest in battlefield healing, which is an area of my expertise. Although killing is used in war to gain power, it is also possible to use healing to gain results that are politically significant. The Red Cross, of course, is a good example of that. I am also a nephrologist by training, and in that capacity, I have treated one high-profile patient for the U.S. administration twice since September of 2001. The first time was a case of an infected peritoneal dialysis catheter and periodontitis, and the second time was for a transplant rejection complicated by sepsis. Who's this? As with any undercover agent used by the CIA, military rank is contrived with each false identity used. Having escaped to Canada in 2002, I was R-worded and reprogrammed to return to that enslavement condition in 2003. My orders were to report to the Pentagon for duty starting October 1st, 2003, in order to cover my enslaved status and to insert me into the Joint Chiefs of Staff meeting in late summer 2001 so that I could set up a psychic warfare defense program for the Pentagon. The DCI Tenet had assigned me a false identity and rank of 1-star General K. Noble. That rank was upgraded immediately by the Pentagon to a 2-star general in order to get the reforms that I recommended quickly pushed through. Note, I was a covert CIA asset and not a standard military person. My rank has always been at the whim of those above me and not based on any orderly progression through the military, based on merit or training for war. For example, because I was training Navy admirals in remote viewing, I was given the uniform and called a rear admiral one week, while the next week I was assigned the rank of a major in order to train low-level Marines. My utility to the U.S. military intelligence industrial complex was due to my remote viewing skills, which included psychokinesis and associated expertise. Torture-induced amnesia cannot completely regress the natural enigmatic processes that heal such mental fractures, eventually allowing coherent recall. Most of the following material has surfaced in my mind since arriving in Geneva in February 2006, due to a conscious decision on my part to try and figure out what would be productive to relay to my experience to help prevent nuclear war. Because my mind was split as a child, I usually have no memory of such past events, unless I make a conscious effort to write them down. The science of such recovered memories show that memory is remarkably good for the gist of events and less good for peripheral details. Dude, it's like, this is like really like that Christopher Nolan movie. Fuck, what was that called? I'll let you know in the next part. Part 5 of the CIA's Oracle. Aha, you goofballs, you thought that I wasn't going to remember to tell you what that movie was, but that Christopher Nolan movie was Memento. Ha 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 ha. I did remember. See, I do have a brain. Okay, without further ado, part 5 of frickin' the CIA's Oracle. Okay, go watch parts 1 through 4 and then watch parts 6 through 1,000,000 after this. Without accompanying documents. This information stands as one eyeball witness report. Because I have had extensive hypnotic suggestions to recall events accurately for debriefing purposes, and because my remote viewing skills tend to bleed through into even my regular personality, what I recall is often more detailed than would be expected. On the other hand, because the information is bleeding through into the regular personality that refuses usually to write down proper nouns due to the programming not to do so, most of the information on the level has been lost. What remains is the gist of the events and how the people relate to each other. As with any source, compilation with other sources is an invaluable step in judging the accuracy of the material. When I reported it at the Pentagon on September 30th, 2003, I was again given the rank of a 2-star general, using the same alias, K. Noble, and told that I was to continue on my special advisor to JCS on defense against psychic warfare. During my absence from Washington, the JCS had not replaced me with another advisor, and no improvements in the Pentagon's defense against psychic warfare had been made. This concerned me as I detected several recent glaring problems in the Pentagon's protection from remote viewing intrusions that were resulting in the loss of substantial information that directly affected national security. Namely, that in the last couple of months, the Chinese and Russians had advanced in their remote viewing technologies and were, again, able to remove documents from the Pentagon and other U.S. agencies by what could best be described as teleportation, for want of a more accurate lay word. Or is teleportation another word for Donald Trump taking them to Mar-a-Lago, putting them in the shit room, putting them in the shitter, and then letting all of the spies that live at Mar-a-Lago and pay him through Mar-a-Lago? They just go down in the basement shitter and then they just peruse at their leisure. Is that remote viewing or is that just spycraft? I don't know. Get back to me, Donald. Let me know what you think. Although I brought this to the attention of my superiors, I was told at the time to address it next month. That meant that any document in the Pentagon could be stolen by the Chinese or the Russians in the meantime. Even after pointing that out to 3 members of the JCS, I was ordered instead to go immediately to Mount Weather, the underground radiation shelter base in Virginia, to assess by remote viewing the adequacy of facility for survival in a nuclear war. It was built for the purpose of sheltering high U.S. officials, including the president, at the event of a nuclear war. It has undergone a number of revisions over the decades, some of which I had previously been asked to comment on. On the summer of 2001, I had thus made some recommendations regarding the air filtering and purification system for that facility, and those had been put in place in the meantime at enormous cost. But the recommendations that I had made regarding the prevention of nuclear war itself, though relatively cheap to put in place, had not been implemented. That was of great concern to me, and I spent much of the next month investigating why such important issues had been swept aside while I was absent from Washington, D.C. Well, I think that it's actually because they want this incoming, doomsday situation. Well, they think it's going to be doomsday for all of us, but really it's just doomsday for them, right? They call it the unveiling. It's going to be when we all finally buck and we never get back on their system. It's a thing they've been trying to avoid for the last 20, 30 years, right? They've been using Project Looking Glass and saying, oh, when is the unveiling coming? We're so scared. Please, what can we do to stop it? And they're like, oh, you could keep doing domestic terror events. Put the Federal Bureau of Investigation in charge of that. That will keep everyone good and scared, right? Everyone's got to stay scared. And then that'll push it off for about 20 years, right? And then they're like, okay, so when do we stop the unveiling? And they're like, oh, it never stops. It's coming. It's happening. And so they think it's the end of the world, but really it's just the end of their world. It's going to be when all of us band together, kind of like how we're all currently doing it. You know, how we're all talking about the same stuff and we're all putting the pieces together and stuff. This is their worst nightmare, okay? So that's why they're trying to divide us. You know, they literally pay 60,000 people to hang out on this app and follow you around and me around especially, and make us have bad times, but we can't have bad times because we're all hanging out with our friends, you know, so I can't have a bad time here. Nice try, feds. But yeah, dude, that's their mission, is to make us hate each other because they think that when the world ends, that it's going to be us hurting each other. But really, it's just going to be us ignoring everything they say and the police say and all the elites and all these people, because we're done with their bullshit. We're going to get Turtle Island rolling. We're going to turn them pyramids back on. We're going to have a good fucking time, okay? We're going to talk to spirits. We're going to talk to EBE. We're going to talk to fucking the 17th dimension, dude. We can do whatever we want because it's all about putting that thought out there, you know? It's all about having that confidence. Sue Arrigo had succeeded in the remarkable collection of her memory despite the unbelievably harsh and destructive fragmentation that has been serially reinforced by CIA torture hypnosis programmers for her entire life. Dr. Arrigo has documented recent torture abductions in Langley, Virginia in August of 2001 and again in August of 2004. Oh, I wonder if they were asking in August 2001, Timothy McVeigh / Paul Weishaupt was like, hey, do you know, is anyone gonna know about us doing this thing in a month? And she's like, what? No, no one's gonna know about 9/11 and that you guys did it with Larry and, you know, you did the controlled demos and all that. She's like, no one will know that. Come on. But really, she just said no so that they would do it, so that we would all figure this out, like right now, because we live in the most pivotal moment in history. It's great, guys. You got a ticket to you're in the front frickin' row, dude. No, this is like IMAX back row. Anyway, Vancouver, Canada in 2002, she was abducted. Nyon, Switzerland in 2006, abduction. Cork, Ireland on June 6, 2007, abduction. near Strasbourg, France on October 30th, 2007 abduction. Yet despite this continual mental and physical enslavement, her determination to help others remains unbreakable. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Although I am willing to take stands that result in my being tortured by the U.S. government, I do so selectively according to an internal cost-benefit analysis that others might not understand. By remote viewing, Arrigo can assess which U.S. government crimes she can effectively prevent and which actions will best mitigate the suffering of others. In return to her enslavement condition, Arrigo has been acting in the best interests of humanity and indeed her own soul by attempting to prevent nuclear war from within the heart of the beast, from within the CIA. She has effectively exposed the conspiracy of lies that entrap and kill hundreds of millions of people annually in a global conspiracy of concurrently orchestrated genocidal wars in various regions of the world. And we're going to get into that in part 6. I think I have one more part in me tonight, and then we'll finish it all tomorrow, okay? Go back and watch 1 through 4 if you haven't seen it, okay? See you in a second, guys. Oh, Peter Thiel. I was adopted. You were born. I was adopted.
You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it.
Oh, Peter Thiel, you were adopted by the darkness. I was born in the darkness, Peter. I was born on 9/11, baby. That is when I became conscious, was 9/11. Okay, so nothing you do will ever scare us. Nothing ever, ever, ever. Okay, Peter? So, fuck off. Now it gets good. I was on the inside of the beast that planned the atrocities of September 11th, 2001, the U.S. government, CIA, Pentagon, and U.S. administration, all the way to the top. In specific, I was under orders from the director of the CIA, Tenet, in August of 2001 to remove from the Pentagon all the 9/11 planning papers that might be discovered when the firefighters came in. There were too many planning papers to remove them all, so they had me, a remote viewer who could see what parts of the building the firefighters would enter, do the job. Even so, the amount of... Dude, they're so lazy. They're just so lazy, always, right? Even so, the amount of 9/11 planning papers at the Pentagon that I removed filled a large moving van. It was planned over many years, and many people knew about it. Few of them have been willing to risk torture or death for speaking of it. Fucking cowards. I did object to the proper authorities about immorality in the U.S. planning the deaths of innocent people in 9/11 to the best of my ability before 9/11. In particular, I personally voiced my moral objections in detail to my boss Tenet and Rumsfeld, as well as personally handing a written report to George Bush and Cheney at the White House and to the Joint Chiefs of Staff at the Pentagon, stating that I believed it was unethical and unlikely to succeed in its goals. It did no good. The proper authorities were the ones planning it. Only a few weeks prior to the U.S. government's attacks on its own citizens, I was tortured by the CIA in its basement at Langley, Virginia, for my objecting so visibly within the military intelligence community prior to 9/11. I think that I did much better than most people in pushing my objections to the fore and getting them heard. Dude, probably. I even faxed over to the International Court at The Hague a warning. Whether it got through or not, I don't know, because whether I tried to call them to find out the phone line went dead 7 times from 7 different phones I tried in late August of 2001 after I was tortured. I asked God to forgive me that I was not strong enough to stop this atrocity against humanity, nor the Afghan and Iraq wars that followed, killing still more innocent people. Going to the press, which I tried many, many times, did nothing. They didn't want the story. They still don't. The mainstream media is controlled worldwide by 5 wealthy men who are not being told the truth about 9/11. Not only that, they are not the truth. They are Nazis. Dude, come on, Sue Arrigo. Did you not see that if you trace their lineage back, it went to Nazis? It went back to Adler workers? Fuck. But she's also trained not to question them, really, right? Dude, this next picture is a doozy, okay? So stay tuned for part 7. I might get it before I go to sleep. We'll see. I'm struggling here. Okay, go watch parts 1 through 5 before this. Go watch parts 7 through 1,000,000 after this. I love ya. Look, Osamner's next. Osama bin Laden, here he comes, our guy.
Psychopaths.
Fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny.
Destiny! Ra's al Ghul's destiny! Work it, boys. It's YOLO time. You never know when Peter's gonna drop that Teasley Howie, okay? That Howie T, you know? Alright, here we go. Bin Laden time, boys. I next treated Osama bin Laden in the U.S. I was told by the CIA to go to Walter Reed Hospital on July 12, 2004, if my memory serves me on the exact date, to see him. At the time, under an assumed name held in protective isolation, he was in kidney failure and near to death from a transplant rejection crisis and/or infection. He was exceedingly ill, but his family and he had specifically requested me to see him, and in the face of his possible death, the Bush administration did not want to deny the request because they're best fucking friends, dude. They were family friends because they're all Nazis. They're all Nazis who love oil and heating the world up so they can give it to the reptiles so only their families can survive, and then everyone else is going to die, okay? That's their plan, and be slaves. So the Bush family and the Bin Ladens, get over it. Literally like this. They're all Nazis too. Like, grow up. Grow the fuck up and do something about it. I'm sick of everyone pussyfooting around this. We have to stop the Nazis. Yes, unfortunately, okay? Your grandpa died for fucking nothing otherwise. I mean, he died for nothing, period. Your government lied to you. Get the fuck over it and let's destroy it. Let's cut the head off like a fucking snake. Anyway, because I am a remote viewer, I was able to see what the problem was and addressed it by having all of his lines and catheters surgically removed while he recovered from the infection. Regardless of whether the administration used bin Laden to foment their wars of aggression and he cooperated with him, my duty as a Christian and a physician was to both pray for his recovery and work to assure it. After he got over that crisis, he was sent to a facility in Vermont to remain hidden. Unsatisfied with his medical care there, he requested that he be allowed to continue seeing me. This is awesome, dude. He was then moved to the Mount Weather base near where I was living while working part-time at the CIA. Mount Weather and the Pentagon. He had the use of a house there in the woods of the base, under an assumed name without sporting his beard or Arab garb. Medically, he was doing much better at that point, and I saw him only twice at that location, before other events interceded in August of 2004. Can't wait to fucking see what happens next, dude, but look, it's got something to do with a Buddhist statue or something. Look, what the hell? Oh my gosh. Okay, what is that? That's gonna be part 8? Jesus Christmas. Okay, go watch parts 1 through 6 and 7. Okay, love you. Bye. Time is a flat circle. We are living in a universe of chaos. No, I don't think so. We're all one, dude. It's all fine. Everything's gonna be fine. The people who need to get spanked will get spanked. Dude, you know in the OA, when you die and you go and talk one-on-one with that lady, she is going to read Peter Thiel the fucking riot act. No, she's not even gonna yell. She's just gonna be like, look at this, and just show the text of him ordering his boyfriend to be flipped over his balcony or something, probably while drugged, because Peter Thiel is a pussy. He's a giant pussy. All right, fuck it. We're only 3 minutes in. Let's keep going. Arrigo details the origin of the military use of psychokinesis from one Japanese Zen monk's spiritual talents in the abatement of atmospheric radiation that were eventually replicated in U.S. experiments. It was not until 1938 in Nazi Germany that the first experiment showed that the mind could change the radioactivity of a substance per se. That experiment was done to see if it was possible to change the glow of radium-painted dials, cause them to black out during air raid drills. That experiment was considered a success by the standards of the day, as the radium was noticeably fainter afterwards. It was thus not until after the dropping of the A-bombs on Japan that the question became a pressing one, as to whether the mind could cause radiation abatement. A curious note in the history on this topic comes from a Zen source. Namely, after the war, the U.S. Army noted that around the area of a particular Zen monastery in Japan near Nagasaki, there were very few deaths from the A-bomb's radiation. That was attributed to a particular monk that cared for the sick and washed them. However, when the U.S. Army studied the radiation levels there, found them less in the monastery and concluded that the wind patterns had prevented as high an exposure there. That interpretation could have been true, except for one notable anomaly. In the vicinity of the monastery behind its walls, the radiation levels were higher than expected. Still, this was explained away as due to the washing of the monastery by the monks with the deposit of the dirt outside of the monastery. It would not be until a few years later that the U.S. Army would test the Zen monk in question on his ability to directly abate radiation. When they did test him, they found that he was able to reduce radiation by about 82%. The reduction was long-lasting, and later he was asked to go to Bikini to help treat some of the survivors of radiation experiments there. But because he affected the radiation levels around him in general, and often in unpredictable ways, the U.S. Army, which wanted to study the effects of the radiation levels on human health, ended up sending him back to Japan. That monk's name was Tomo Ayuhawi, and when Zen people considered him a local saint. He was renowned in the area for his kindness and his healing abilities, and so the Army really did not think that his ability to lower radiation levels would be reproducible. Thus, there was little attempt at the time to do further experiments along the lines with an eye of finding or developing others who could do the same. I know about this early history on the topic because the CIA asked me to research the area and write up my findings, which I did in the mid-1980s. Woo! And then we're going to read this next part after, okay? In the next part, find out what happens to the monk in part 8. Okay, love you, bye. Hello, my little nitwitchlings. You ready for Oracle part 8? Wait, this isn't Oracle part 8. What the heck? Whoa. Ugh, gross. Wait, this isn't it either. Oh, frickin' gross. Oh, frick, dude. Well, how did all this stuff get in here? Oh my god, is that a frickin' magnet? What the hell? This one's not totally done yet, but it's gonna be something like this or something? I don't know. Dude, what is this? This isn't anything to do with the CIA Oracle. Did I throw that away? Oh, nope, here it is. Okay. Here we go, part 8. Ready? All right, here we go, part 8. Go watch parts 1 through 7, and then go watch parts 9 through 1,000,000 after this. Just as remote viewing became a weaponization of the innate human spiritual capacity for clairvoyance, accessed by General Billy Mitchell in 1924, Dr. Arrigo's research revealed that military psychokinesis and radiation abatement in particular shares its roots in the compassionate meditations of a Zen monk. An astounding record of the clashing forces of destruction and compassion is housed in the Hiroshima Peace Museum. Hiroshima Buddha left was severely maimed by the nuclear blast of August 6, 1945, preserving for us in bronze a record of the twisted forms of the victims of U.S. nuclear war atrocities in Japan. Arrigo's research has been provided for publication at grave danger to herself in a profound effort to avert a recurrence of nuclear war. She has continued to bear her enslavement by the CIA as a means of helping defeat preemptive nuclear strike plans within the U.S. administration as their primary remote viewer and psychokinesis expert, able to disintegrate radioactive materials by focused, compassionate intent. Dude, Susan Arrigo is doing one of the bravest things ever. She knows that she is one of the best remote viewers, that the CIA, if they had their way, they would force her to work for them forever, okay? Now, she knows that she has a skill that they need, and she's saying, I'm going to fucking withhold it, or I'm going to use my ability to be in this position. I'm going to use this to bring attention to all this stuff that pisses me off. No one else does this, man. This is very brave. I'm very proud of Susan. You know, it's hard to get up and say, hey, you're going to fire me, but I think this is wrong. And that takes a lot, and I love that about her. Psychokinesis is a very broad subject, and those unfamiliar with the topic are likely to make a number of unjustified assumptions about it that I would like to dispel before we get into the details of it. First off, people believe that the mind is separate from the so-called outer reality. Quantum physics experiments have proven that to be a false assumption. The results of experiments are dependent upon the mindset, the preconceived notions of the experimenter. One cannot accomplish a goal that one does not have, except by rare accidents of fate. Second, people believe that outer reality is comprised of matter that has mass and size, and that moving a large heavy object is harder than moving a small light one. If one has such a view of the world, one will be hard-pressed to move anything at all, given that most people view thoughts and intentions as so unsubstantial as to not be able to move a feather. False, dude. False. Thoughts and words and all that shit is magic. It's magic. And now I'm so into the magic words and magic thoughts should be able to have us move shit with our brains. Let's go. Or at least talk to each other. Why not, dude? If I'm thinking, I know something's happening up here, right? Because I'm thinking, I can picture stuff in my head. I can hear voices in my head that I want. Like, I can hear my mother's voice. I can hear, there's something going on up here, right? So if there's something going on up here, why the hell couldn't someone either record it or hear it? If I hear it, I believe that other people could hear it. It just makes sense to me. It just feels right? So let's just keep moving about with that assumption. All right, let's keep going. However, if one changes one's mind and thinks of outer reality as no more substantial than the dream fabric of the night, a flimsy mind state that dissipates immediately and automatically, when one awakes or changes one's state of consciousness, then having an intention may easily shift the whole scene, including the very scenery or mountains. It is not unusual in a dream for one scene to completely dissolve and become another. So why should moving mountains with your intention be anything surprising to you? It is only the case because you have bought into the concept of an external reality of matter that is separate from your mind. In quantum physics, not even a single atom can be shown to exist, but you believe in the solidity of rocks as if it were a proven fact. It is not a fact. It is an illusion in the dream time. Let's go! Yet, there are some rules of cause and effect that still apply in the dream time. Some invariants, if you will. Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Jewish, and Muslim saints, masters of the dream time, all agree on what those rules are. They are observable facts. If one takes the time to investigate, it is just that the rules are not as simplistic as most religious tenet writers put it to paper. So others, seeing what appears to be loopholes or inconsistencies, believe that they are not inviolable. That is due to inattention to details and wishful thinking. All right, guys, that's freaking part 8. Here we go. Come find us for part 9. Go watch the earlier versions. And guys, this is tonight, okay? This thing? The thing I can't say? The thing that all of these videos are ads for. Not really. They're not. It's just, I'm telling you about this thing. It's happening tonight. Tonight might be really fun. We're going to talk about Ophanim. We're going to talk about the Oracle of the CIA, this person. We're going to talk about... What the frick was all that stuff? What is this, dude? What the heck? What the hell? We don't have to have the squiggly circle thing either. I just thought it was fun. What the frick, dude? Anyway, I'll see you guys at 6, or I'll see you in part 9, all right? Here we go. Kukacha! All right, here we go. Part 9, CIA Oracle. All right. The workings of and guys, this is tonight. Come hang out, okay? EST. You can find it on my tree that's in a link, okay? The workings of karma, sin, virtue are certainties. It is through paying strict attention to them that one can develop certainty of one's results. In the arena of preventing nuclear war and annihilation of the species and planet, nothing less is worthwhile. From the point of view of non-duality, all faults are one's own. There is literally no one else to blame other than oneself for the state of the world. All the actors are manifestation of one's own mind and its defilements. Depending on how one intends in the dream time, the results of one's intentions appear to manifest in just one's private experience or also in the experience of so-called others. For example, in the case of playing war games with tanks, some students of psychokinesis will have a tank disappear from their view, or from a few people's view, but not from everyone's view. A master of psychokinesis should have control over how the result manifests and not leave it to chance. If the intention is to disable the destructive potential of a nuclear missile heading towards a target, then it should disappear from everyone's point of view. However, if the intention is to get people to minimize their time in in hell, then it is better for those who are headed there to suffer from nuclear war and burn off some of the sin through suffering before they die. At least that is the case, assuming that they do not further compound their misdeeds as a result. Parallel universes can be invoked so that only those who advance the goal of nuclear war actually suffer from it. This is very important to understand because those pushing the world towards annihilation have anger in their minds directed towards others that they want to cause to suffer or die. Yet these people, by the very fact of that anger and partiality of mind, do not have certainty of action. They cannot ensure that it is others and not themselves and those that they are attached to that will end up the victims. In actual fact, their anger will cause them to suffer in the nuclear war with certainty and not even be able to die a quick death from it. It is a promise that God has already made and they do not have the ability to undo. Let's go. What they do have the ability to do, if they so choose, is to repent of their anger and plans for nuclear war and beg God's forgiveness. Then, if they destroy the weapons and the threat to everyone that is the result of their existence, they too can avoid the intense suffering of radiation sickness and the much worse fires and suffering of hell itself. If the U.S. government did not believe in hell, then why have they commanded their remote viewers not to investigate its existence, its conditions, and how beings end up there? It is critical intelligence for making an informed decision. Would you invest in a bank before checking its credit rating and solvency? Why believe instead in the words of a government that cannot even run an occupation successfully in a third world country? They have no certainty of action and their approval ratings show that the public knows it. So how can you keep your blinders on without massive doses of intentional ignorance called stupidity? Is it good to emulate stupidity? Will stupidity save you from suffering, or is it a failed option, one that never had a chance to help anyone, let alone a government that inherited nuclear weapons? Ultimately, it is the case that different people experience the same event differently anyway, but this effect is greatly exaggerated when a strong intender is trying to get the optimal result for everyone in terms of minimizing their future suffering. For example, when Christ performed miracles, some people saw people being healed or were healed themselves. Others without faith only saw a faker making trouble and wanted him stopped, even if it took killing him to do so. The results that people got from coming to see Christ depended on their own state of mind. That said, I will now talk about some of the experiments that the U.S. military did on psychokinesis and what they said about the results of them. One of the tests that I participated in was on whether psychokinesis could be used to disable incoming nuclear missiles. This was a test that I designed myself, as I had complained that Star Wars was ludicrous, as one could do better without technical difficulties or cost, just by intending the result that one wanted. Because I had made these comments at a JCS meeting during Reagan's second term, one of the generals present asked for me to put on a demo that Reagan could easily attend, as opposed to one that out at the Nevada test site like some of the earlier ones that I had been involved in. As a result, I was standing in the Oval Office with Reagan at the time that this particular test was run, and the Pentagon was monitoring the results and surveying the results to Reagan by phone. 3 planes were sent up and asked to fire missiles at a target. In this case, the missiles were non-nuclear that fragmented into hundreds of pieces, mimicking a multiple warhead nuclear weapon. The pieces were luminescent, like phosphorus tracers, and easy to see in the night sky as well as to photograph. The military made a number of runs conducted at a distant base in Oklahoma. If I remember correctly, then they asked me to deflect the rounds. At first, they believed that the missiles were not firing from the planes because they saw no tracers. But when the planes landed, indeed, the missiles were missing. All right. You'll see what happens in frickin' part 10. Jesus, we're moving. All right, see you guys then. And then see you tonight, okay? Bye. All right, you frickin' dudes, we're back on our Oracle grind. This is chapter 10. Holy crapola. As the evening progressed, they asked me to let the tracers start to show and then disappear so they could see where the psychokinesis was occurring in the sky. Remember that this is happening half a continent away from my physical location per their thinking. The next run recorded on film showed dots of light followed by darkness. They were of such brief duration that only a few of them were caught on the film. So they asked me to let the tracers show for longer. Now I am calling them tracers because they are luminescent, but in fact they were large missiles of phosphorus on the order of a ton each. They lit up the sky very brightly before I was asked to demonstrate their psychokinetic destruction. Because the military wanted to track their psychokinetic decay, which was really instantaneous, I had to change my intention to a slower decay. So I let the missiles fizzle out like a balloon that is released without being tied. That gave a thin strand of light, rather like a large firefly for each fragment. Although the pretests had lots of phosphorus hitting the ground in pieces and setting fields on fire, my runs had no fire starting, and later examination in the morning did not find any phosphorus on the ground below. The military had trouble believing that it had the right area and insisted on repeating the tests. The second test was done the next day during daylight at another base in the desert. In this case, the military spread out large blue plastic tarps and looked for burns and melted plastic to judge how well I had done in destroying the missiles with my mind. Again, when we started, they did not believe that I had destroyed the missiles even though the planes came back without them, since they saw nothing. So I ended up having to let a trace of the phosphorus start its burn and drop to the ground before getting rid of the rest, so that they would believe me and believe that the missiles were over the plastic tarp area, which was about the length of a runway and about 20 feet wide. I am a bit of a prankster, so I arranged the first drops of the phosphorus to be in even lines on only the first tarp. One general later accused me of rigging the test, though in fact I was more than half a continent away, and everything I did occurred by the use of my mind, not my hands, as he accused me of. Dude, it doesn't matter what. Sue might literally be just projecting into the, the frickin' quantum field or whatever. Or no, what's it called? The unified field or whatever, and just asking EBE to do this shit. Maybe he's doing it. Who knows how this works? But all I know is that Sue has a very similar vibe to EBE. She's funny, but like reserved. It seems like she's a jokester, she's a trickster, she's a prankster. She likes to play with the mystery. Like, I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't know. Did the phosphorus disappear? I'm not sure. Isn't that what I was supposed to do? Oh, I'm a liar? Oh, okay. Like, she sounds like EBE. I love her. I think she's great. The real issue, and she's brave as fuck, dude. She knows fear. She knows pain. They've been torturing her whole life, and she says, I don't give a fuck. Torture me. I know what it feels like. I know what to expect. I know what to do with my mind. I know where to go during that. I know what to do to control you. In the end, all of this is going to reflect poorly on the torturers. And she says it's fucking worth it to keep to keep tabs on these motherfuckers and to make sure that they're not going to do nuclear war. I'm of the opinion that Sue Arrigo may be the only thing that's kept us from nuclear war over the last 30 years. Remember how we were all supposed to die in like 2000 and then 2012 and it's like every freaking 5 years. I think Sue is pushing that back single-handedly. Sue is single-handedly saying, stop with this nonsense, and then she uncovers a new aspect of it. We're going to uncover the whole thing, though, for Sue, so she doesn't have to get tortured anymore, okay? That would be smart. The real issue is whether one could evaporate a nuclear weapon without having radioactive dust hit the ground. So the next test was one of putting uranium in a conventional missile as a dirty bomb. This was done at the Nevada test site in case I failed, and again, I was not on site. I was standing in Casey's office at CIA HQ, and the time with Reagan on the phone. The size of the bomb was about 500 pounds, and the amount of radiation would have been substantial. The fallout downwind could have been a real problem, and some generals had objected to the test on that basis, as it was after the limited test ban treaty. While there was no nuclear explosion per se, and so there was no violation of the letter of the treaty, the amount of potential release of radiation was nearly half of the first A-bomb released over Japan. Given that being the case, the test was delayed until an almost windless day. I was not quite clear about the logic of that, since I doubted that the radiation would be swept up by brooms before the next windy day. However, I had no intention of failing, and so I went forward with the test. I am used to having certainty of result in that personality. in that personality. It is because of that certainty of result that I have often been used for these tests. Like, when she's put in this spot, she doesn't miss. Is that what she's saying? She says she doesn't take shots that miss. All right. Hell yeah. Dude, we need to learn everything from Sue, okay? We're going to be looking for videos of how she gets into her Ashkenazi, or the Ashcans record. I forget what the fuck it's called. The Ash something record. Not Ashkenazi. Akashic record. We got to figure out how to get fast into the Akashic record like she said, or whatever. She said we could do it in a day. I'm going to stop nuclear bombs with my fucking brain, okay? Try and drop a nuke on us, Peter. I will fucking eliminate it, you idiot. The result of the test was that there was no increase in radiation detected afterwards compared to what had been at the site previously. Some scientists objected that the radiation levels were slightly lower than that had been before, and said that the results might not have been from getting rid of the radiation of the bomb as much as getting rid of it on the ground afterwards. I found that a moot point. After all, the point was to prevent fallout that could hurt people. Yeah, sounds right. Okay, here we go. Next, this is the next part. We're going into it in part frickin' 11. We're moving along, guys. Here we go. And then we're going to get into some weirdo stuff. Hold on. We're almost there, dude. Oh, brother. Oh, brother. And then, oh, brother. Okay, part 11. Go watch parts 1 through 9 before this, okay? Bye. Hey guys, this is happening tonight. What do you say? You want to hang out? You want to come and visit? You know where to go. It's on the other place. Anyway, okay, we're on part 11 of CIA's Oracle. Here it goes. This looks like a cave. I'm not sure what it is. Okay, ready? Sue just stopped nuclear fallout with her mind, okay? That's where we left off. That test was followed a few months later by more sophisticated tests on decreasing specific types of radiation, such as gamma rays versus alpha waves. It really makes no difference. It was only a difference in the intention. Those tests were run underground in caverns already created by nuclear explosions. The tests showed that the mine could evaporate a ton of highly radioactive material instantaneously. In this case, we had visuals directly from security cameras in the cavern. In one frame, the ton of uranium was there, and in the next, it was almost not, and the second one, it was gone. People accuse me of getting kickbacks from the uranium ore company that I wasted a ton of the precious material, but that was not the case. Here I have omitted details of the actual test because of true national security reasons. Omission of the details in this specific case will not prevent countries from protecting themselves from nuclear war and fallout. The next set of tests that I want to mention happened a few years later in the Bush Senior administration, the George Scherf administration, George Scherf Jr. administration. These tests involved me at the site of the radiation, in this case at the Nevada test site primarily. I was asked to walk through radioactive caverns and ingest large lethal doses of radiation to test my abilities. Really, it was a little bizarre since I could decontaminate a whole cavern of the radiation after an atomic explosion, so there was no need to force me to ingest lethal doses before I decontaminated it. The experiments verged on the sadistic, and except that I had very unusual abilities relative to my body, I would not have survived them. Dude, see, even their most precious remote viewer, they said, here, just try and eat this. Can you eat it? Can you eat it, you freaky X-Men? Can you eat this, you little weirdo X-Men? But yeah, so apparently this is from a radiation blast or nuclear blast that created this cavern, or maybe this is the frickin' yeah, I guess maybe this is the uranium that she swallowed up? I don't know. It doesn't have a caption. I don't know why. All right. The Nome nuclear blast cavity above, oh, here we go, located 1,184 feet below Carlsbad, New Mexico, is another test site that was likely used for these very sensitive radiation abatement and cleanup experiments. Arrigo documents an astonishing feat of human consciousness that, if replicated on a larger scale, could reverse the contamination of our planet and the destiny of our species. However, she also warns that the feasibility of radiation abatement by psychokinetic masters has fed into the Nazi U.S. government genocidal fantasies by providing a potential means to clean up their premeditated radiation disaster. Fuck that. No. See, this is why everyone who can remote view needs to withhold their abilities from the government, okay? But I think if we all band together, we're going to do civilians remote viewing crew, okay? And we are going to eradicate all the nukes. We're going to get rid of anything that can hurt us or hurt EBE or anyone except for Peter Thiel. We're only keeping stuff that will be used to hurt Peter Thiel, okay? Everyone understands that? All right, part fucking 12, here it comes. When I arrived at the Mount Weather Base in October of 2003, I quickly discovered that I had been recalled from Canada because the U.S. had run out of more conventional solutions to a problem that they felt was urgent to solve. The problem was explained to me by the commander of Mount Weather as, we plan to use this base for its intended function, to house the U.S. officials in the event of nuclear war. But all of the remote viewers say that no one will survive a nuclear war here. You are the one that says everything is possible. You are the one that we trust to be able to do it. Dude, Sue should say, Sue should tell them whatever gets all of them dead and all of us alive. Perhaps you misunderstand what I say at the beginning of my remote viewing training intensives. I say that anything that is ethical to do can be done. What is unethical about saving the life of the president and his advisors, he asked. Billions of other people dead from the nuclear war, I replied. But the scientists have calculated out the number of people that need to survive to have enough genetic variation for the species to continue. And they put the number at 210 families. Do you see this, dude? All of these Nazi families. I bet there's 210 Nazi fucking families, bro. Guaranteed. Watch. When at the end of this, when I have everyone's ancestry, guess how many ancestry family trees I'll have? 210. Yeah, it looks like you guys have enough genetic variation. Here, take a look. Here, just take a look at yourselves. Yep, 210 families. That's enough. Look, none of these people look alike, dude. Look, even this guy. Look, half-baked Elon and baked Elon and half-baked Elon. Which one's which? You tell me. Here. Tell me, do you think that these people have enough genetic variation between their families? Yeah, okay, sit here and tell me that these two aren't directly related. Tell me that. Tell me none of these people are completely exactly related. Dude, come on, brother. That's where we got frickin' busted Elon. Look at all these people. Yeah, Epi guy. Yeah, dude, this is the worst. Tell me right to my face right now that you guys have enough genetic variation in your families. Tell me right now. Here, tell me. Tell me that you guys definitely have enough genetic variation so that I don't know that Eddie Weisopel is related to Paul Weisopel. I mean, Timothy McVeigh. You know what I mean? Tell me that you have fucking genetic differentiation with 210 families, because the Lebensboard, it says otherwise, okay? Here we go. Yeah, tell me on the Lebensboard that they have enough genetic variation, okay? Where? Show me where. Okay. Oh my god, our life is a nightmare. Anyway, we will have 240 for extra margin of safety. Smart. Yep, those 30 extra Lebensborn families, they will definitely help, okay? I looked down at my shoes in embarrassment. Not only were the scientists wrong per my intuition, but also I had just been told that the U.S. government intended to nuke everyone off the face of the planet and leave only 240 families in a hole in the ground. Absolutely, that's where the grays come from. It's Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Neti Pot and all of the Subway saboteurs kids who are still around, which is all of them because they're all still around. Yep. Here, wait. All of these kids. Yeah, you guys know how I know these ones? Like, we know Peter's dad, we know Roger's dad, we know Joseph Dash's dad is right here. And we just got these, we've got Richard, we've got Herbert Hans Haupt, we've got Edward John Curling, Herman Otto Neubauer, who's probably another frickin' Clier, and then Ernest Peter Bunger, and then Walter Cappy. So yeah, these assholes kids are on the loose somewhere, and they're one of those 240 families. No, they're definitely one of those 210 families. They're not part of the bonus families. I called Tenet at CIA headquarters and asked to speak to him. He said, "There have been changes around here since I last saw you. They, the White House, believe nuclear war is inevitable, only a matter of time. They want," and his voice quavered momentarily, "to schedule the end as part of a ceremony on a solstice for the best effect. This is for real. This is the way they see it. Take everyone else out and start over, just them. That way there's no overpopulation, no racial tension, no exhaustion of the petroleum reserves. They can't imagine life without oil. They don't want to share what is left of it. Dude, we have to destroy. Do you hear this? This is an existential crisis of humanity. They are an existential crisis against their own species, bro. They don't want to share what is left of it. Dude, there's free energy everywhere, Tesla said. You think if everyone's fucking white that you idiots won't figure out a way to hate each other after that, you dumbass? Dude, I hate you people. Truly, you're disgusting, you Nazis. You fucking rat Nazis. Gonna kill the entire earth. I hope you fucking blow the earth up. You fucking idiot. And you're the only people who don't get to go to the goddamn unified field or whatever, you fucking freaks. Bunch of German Nazis. We let a bunch of German Nazi spies take over our fucking government. And no one wants to fucking do anything about it except for Sue and me. And the nitwitches, but you know what I mean. I'm so sick of looking around at my fucking friends, my family, everyone who doesn't give a fuck about this. I hope you fucking care when your whole family's dead, but there's nothing that we'll be able to do because y'all didn't say fucking anything right now. I'm so done with it. Have a little bit of fucking balls. Have some huevos. We're gonna fucking destroy Peter Thiel. What more fun could you have? But that is insane, I replied. We can go to another source of fuel. We can create new solutions. Dude, we have the sun. We have waves. We have fucking scalar energy. That we do not need oil. They want oil to heat the planet up. They have tricked us all into using all the oil to heat the planet up for the lizard people, okay? Not a joke. That is not the way they see it. They don't have the confidence that you have. They don't believe that creativity will always find a solution. They want you to bring the radiation back down to normal background levels after everyone else is dead. Down to normal again, like you did at the Nevada test site demonstration. I can't do that to preserve the lives of mass murderers, I replied. I refuse to help them kill off the planet's life, even if I could do that, or even if I could do what they wanted, which I can't. This is exactly what Sue said after that. Yeah, I wish anyone would have fucking morals the way Sue does. I'm so sick of looking around at people who are saying, what am I gonna do? Fucking anything. All you have to do is put your mind to it and then you do it, you dummy. Anyway, part fucking 13 or 12. I don't know where we are anymore, okay? Alright, boys, part 13 of Sue Arrigo, the Oracle. I know I just got off stream with you, but I need to check in on my girl, see where she's at, see what she's doing real quick. And yes, I am an uncircumcised knitted anus right now. It's too hot for the thing. Alright, here we go. Ready? On 3, 2, 1. Over the next few days, Senator J. Rockefeller at left showed, hey, that looks a little bit like Chester Bennington. What do you think? Showed up a number of times with contractors to explain to them what he wanted changed in his privatized part of the underground facility. While most of the facility was not much different in style than the inside of CIA headquarters, there are some notable exceptions. Rockefeller's section already looked like the inside of the New York Metropolitan Museum, filled with precious art objects and with high vaulted Gothic ceilings. He now ordered that his section be expanded from mansion size to 3 times as large, and a new swimming pool installed, which was about Olympic sized. I was not happy with this change, as an enormous amount of dust was generated by this construction over the many months it took to complete, and that overloaded the air filtering system, which had to be replaced and upgraded again to handle the extra interior volume. The facility was now about 9% larger overall, and the construction thinned the wall of rock that was acting to make the shelter safe. Even in the construction of this albatross, that concerned parties were unable to agree on what was fair in terms of size or number of people to be admitted to it. Rockefeller intended to bring in whomever he wanted at the last moment, including all of the cousins that he liked and their children. Officially, there were only 2 Rockefellers on the list, Jay and his uncle David. I wrote up, what about Chester Bennington? I wrote up my remote viewing findings on the Mount Weather radiation shelter scenario over the month of October 2003. Those retreating to the base in the event of a nuclear war would almost certainly kill each other off long before the radiation levels became livable. Exactly. There would be too many alpha males in a small space. Minor disagreements would be magnified in a confined space under stress. Major disagreements that already divided them would be even harder to check than before by having killed billions of innocent human beings. The taboo against killing would be so weakened as to be non-existent. They would kill each other just as they had killed others. Yes, they would. Amen. The next day, on about November 4th, 2003, I was called into the White House to explain my report in person to Bush Jr. and Bush Sr., George Sirf Jr. and George Sirf III, as they were upset by the content of it. Also present in the Oval Office at the time were Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, but no one else. Only 3 copies of that report had been made, 4 eyes only, one for the president, one for Tenet, and one for the commander of Mount Weather, whose duty it was to report to the JCS on all matters concerning that base. Rumsfeld wanted me to go point by point through my report on why a nuclear first strike would not be survivable, because it's insane. You're insane. The report that I had written was about 14 pages long, plus an appendix, which was over 200 pages and went through the actual remote viewing analyses. What one sees as a viewer are possible futures. The specialty in remote viewing has been to develop the analyses so that those possible futures have reliable probabilities assigned to them. Since I have a mathematical training and have done much stock prediction in one personality, I have been able to scientifically validate the analyses that I developed. It has to do with holographic mind, a way of seeing all the possibilities at once in a flash of understanding. Dude, it's like literally like Paul Maudib shit, pulling on the threads of humanity. Most people have never experienced such an understanding and cannot believe that such a state of mind is possible. So to convince them, I gave them the experience of holographic mind for a while. It is such a different way of understanding the world that most people cannot hold that understanding after they come out of it. All they can do is know that they had the experience of the understanding briefly. It is like looking at a city map before folding it up again. You know that you saw it, but you couldn't say much about what it was that you saw, and you couldn't reproduce the map from memory. But having been shown it by someone telling you directions, you can believe that they do know how to direct you to get to your destination. So after I explained holographic analysis and demonstrated it, they no longer questioned my assertions about the probability of the events that I discussed in my report. Nonetheless, Rumsfeld wanted me to go through each point carefully to make sure that I had not overlooked anything. So I frickin' did, okay? And you're gonna come back for gosh dang part 14. Here it comes. I'm gonna record it right this second. Bro, we are back on frickin' part 14. Here we go. We're gonna learn about the holographic mind field or whatever the hell Sue Arrigo's talking about. When I got to the point of asserting that the survivors would have to stay in the shelter for over 5 years in order to not die in their first month out of it, Rumsfeld wanted to know why I was able to conclude that. Would no remote viewer be able to bring down the radiation any better than that? Dude, I hate these people. I tried to demonstrate that by putting them back into holographic mind, but their nausea in witnessing their possible future radiation sickness was too great for them to stand, and they refused to continue with the demonstration. I said that if they could not even stand to remote view how nauseated they might be in the future, that they shouldn't undertake the course of action that led to that. Exactly, bro. As we continued stepping through the report, it dawned on Rumsfeld that I might be right that nuclear first strike would not be survivable. As Rumsfeld started to agree with me and with Tenet that it was a bad idea, Cheney began attacking me personally. The attacks were not based on the evidence, but on his perception of me being disloyal and not agreeing with him, obviously, because that's what Nazis care about. Finally, Rumsfeld asked to at least be allowed to hear me out. Cheney refused and said that I was poisoning their minds against the plan. He stated that the only reason that Tenet was no longer in favor of the plan was because of his contact with me. He then started swearing at me and calling me obscenities. See how they just need yes men around always? I told them to get a remote viewer that they could trust, and walked out of the Oval Office. Before I made it out of the building, I was handcuffed and escorted back to the Oval Office, where I was berated for my uncooperative attitude. I said that I would not speak as long as the handcuffs were on me. I was sent to the basement holding cell, where for 2 days I did not say a word. On the third day, the handcuffs were removed and I was escorted back up to a room on the first floor. There, I was given a fresh set of clothes and told to shower. I did so and was escorted back into the Oval Office. Bush Sr., George Scherf Jr., asked me how long it would take for me to train another remote viewer to take my place. Dude, they don't get it. I pointed out that over the decades, I had trained hundreds of good viewers, especially for the Office of Naval Intelligence, and that they could easily replace me with one of those men. Bush Jr. asked me if any of them could affect radiation levels as well as I could, and I replied, if you want to know, test them. That is how it got left. I was to continue finding ways to make Mount Weather survivable until I was replaced by one of my students. Then, after about 6 months after they started looking for a replacement for me, I was called to the White House and told to finish training a particular ONI student of mine up to my level of competency in radiation abatement. The ONI officer had slowed the rate of radioactive emissions to 1/28 of what was expected. In front of George Bush Sr., I asked the naval officer to repeat the experiment while knowing that the U.S. elite planned to use his skill to bail them out of killing off the rest of the humans on the Earth. The naval officer fainted dead away. After he recovered from the shock, the test was repeated back at ONI HQs. The atomic clock advanced 26 hours in 24 hours under these conditions, which means that the radioactive emission of the cesium was higher and thus more toxic. What the hell? The ONI then tested another 3 of their best psychokinesis officers with this unethical scenario, with clock results that varied from 18 hours to 32 hours in Day's test. They even insisted on retesting me at this task, with the result that the clock ran 24 hours on a 24-hour period, and I was accused of not trying. The U.S. administration refused to believe that I could not do what they wanted. They have no understanding of spiritual law and how radiation abatement effects are achieved. Arrigo's ability to determine the ethical balance enables her accuracy in considering all of the possible outcomes, not only the desired set of outcomes. In her explications, Arrigo confirms that the universal law of physics cannot be altered carelessly, but only through focused, compassionate intent. Since I was involved in much of that research as a gifted psychokinetic expert and trainer, I feel that it is my responsibility to make sure that radiation abatement is used to help the planet, not as a rescue strategy after a first strike. It is completely immoral and unconscionable to launch nuclear weapons to kill everyone above ground and then reverse the radiation and come out of one's shelter to have all of the oil just for oneself and one's progeny. I cannot remain silent given that I know about the U.S. plans. Even though they tortured me again last week in Nyon, Switzerland, in a makeshift torture chamber in a basement to try and silence me. Dr. Arrigo's insider accounts show the global nuclear threat to have grown from the ignorance and greed of petty old men who fear their own imminent demise, and perhaps the impending suffering of their next incarnation, brought upon themselves by orchestrating mass murder for the better of their adult lives. These are the products of generational cycles of ritualized child torture and entrapment that now govern the U.S. Indeed, it is a simple problem of psychopathic liars believing their own fucking lies, dude. Let's go. Part 15 is next. Part 15, sit down, buckle in, boys. A true understanding of the unique physics of water and abundant fuel alleviates all of the limitations of oil-based technologies and overpopulation. Water and HHO plasma generated from water can provide for all human needs, as originally discovered and developed by Nikola Tesla, only to be hidden by the Nazis and developed as stealth plasma cloaking technology. The thorough compartmentalization of the U.S. government's secret scientific projects has blocked many advances in awareness of the potential of HHO plasmas for free energy production and human well-being. Dude, we're getting into this. We are going to unlock this shit, okay? However, a few independent inventors have reconfirmed Tesla's results and engineered free energy reactors using HHO resonant transfer plasmas, now being marketed for heating homes by Blacklight Power Inc. Another independent inventor, Danny Klein of Clearwater, Florida, has engineered and marketed an HHO plasma torch using the same basic process. Both of these technologies are extremely safe and clean, as HHO plasma is created in a vacuum tube that, if broken, quenches the plasma reaction and releases only water vapor. In addition, HHO plasmas release healthy UVA light and no UVB or C. The advanced technological achievements of humanity now allow the necessary shift to sustainability that can salvage our polluted planet. Yes, dude. The transition from oil-based to water-based fuel begins an opportunity for those abusive controllers of the antiquated systems to redeem themselves by sharing this technology widely. Who among the controlling elite will resign from their mass murdering and redeem themselves by doing so? Dr. Arrigo's unique efforts suggest there are many willing to act. All right, let's go. Let's see it. At the time of that conference on WMD of George Tenet's mansion in the first week of May 2004, I had before me in my mind already the upcoming torture in August, and I saw that I could avoid that if I played it safe and went along with the flow toward nuclear war and the local wars in the Middle East. As much as I personally wanted to sell out, I was unable to because I knew the consequences to my soul if I did not. Many people have become saints through praying to know the consequences of their actions. Saint Teresa of Avila in the 1500s or so had a vision of the small cramped space in hell that God showed her that her vanity over her looks had earned her. As a result, she became serious about the welfare of her soul. She made spiritual progress and developed the rapture of uniting her will with Christ and had to be held down during Mass to prevent her levitation. She is the founder of the Carmelite Convents. I recommend that people pray to know the consequences of her behavior. It is very sobering to know. It is more important than knowing the price of items or how to make a living, because it has much more far-reaching effects for oneself and for those around one. So at the conference, I prayed that those men know the consequences of their actions in giving tacit approval to the U.S. administration's plan to kill off the planet with radiation and then reverse the radioactivity by psychokinetic means. I made that prayer silently while I was listening to another presenter. Tenet as a spur-of-the-moment thought. Suddenly, all the men in the room fainted dead away, and their minds were confronted with visions of their afterlives. Yes, you can ask some of them directly what it was that they experienced at the time. It was not until Tenet was done being scheduled to tell them lies that morning that they returned to their usual bodily perceptions. Having spent only a few hours knowing the consequences, that easily went back into denial again. Yet many said that they were completely shocked to learn that the suffering they saw of the denizens of hell was so dreadful. No, dude, that is what's coming for you, mother flippers. 3 of the men resigned from being heads of their intelligence agencies within about a month later. One of these 3 was the head of the SVR, the Russian intelligence service that used to be the KGB, though officially Russia was not considered a friendly foreign intelligence service. The CIA had gone to a lot of trouble after the Cold War to advance this man's particular career and well-being. As a result, he was invited to this conference as a full participant. I knew him quite well, as I had negotiated intelligence sharing agreements between the CIA and the SRV over many years. After this session, this Russian SRV general sitting next to me said, "Strong vodka you serve here. It opens the eyes, not shuts them to the ethical concerns. Next time, tell me in advance when you are going to serve it so that I can drink Smirnoffs instead. I then admitted to him that it occurred as a result of a passing thought of mine without premeditation. He said, more as a question than a statement, it is a good thing that you do not premeditate me more harm then. Tennant was less than pleased, and coming to in a now wrinkled suit, he exclaimed loudly, would someone please get this woman off my back before I am a ruined shirt? He, of course, was one of the three to resign, a decision he did not make until later that same day. That night he asked me in private, how do I avoid that hell? He spent much of that night discussing what he would need to do to clean up his soul. Let's go. All right, and in the next part tomorrow, you'll hear about it in part 16. Okay, bye. You guys thought I was done. I'm not done. I'm never done. Okay, part 16. Here we go. We're back at it, all right? Sorry for the delay. Get over it. We left off with, how's this guy going to clean up his soul? Well, guess what? Probably won't. The next day, he phoned the White House and said that he wanted to change the focus of the negotiations to the terms of his resignation. The conference still had 3 days to go, and those negotiations were quite involved and lengthy, and resulted in George Tennant's resignation from his relatively long-held DCI post on July 11, 2004, at a time when it was most convenient to deflect blame for the falsified WMD intelligence reports cooked up as the impetus for the 2003 Iraq invasion. Tennant, however, acknowledged that he had stepped down due to personal reasons. How can men who have seen their likely condition after death later ignore it? It is the most important intelligence one could have, and yet most of them threw it away. Good intelligence is often discarded by intelligence services when it runs counter to the prevailing winds of deception within an agency. Those who were most affected by it were those who knew me best and had the most confidence in my integrity and thus in what they had witnessed. The third resignation was rendered on May 6, 2004 by Sir Richard Dearlove at Left, the head of MI6. I had worked closely with MI5 for about 20 years and with MI6 for the last 5 years of my time working at the CIA, 1998 to 2001 and then 2003 to 4. The head of MI6 was particularly close friend of mine, of a non-sexual nature. I had assisted at the birth of one of his children who had nearly been born blue in about 2000, so I had thereafter stayed at his house whenever I passed through London, which was several times a year. We had many long talks about the state of the world and our respective agencies, and while we did not see eye to eye on most topics, we managed a mutual respect that bordered on the miraculous. I mention all this because it is relevant to our discussion in a number of ways. First, intelligence heads are ordinary people with their own private sufferings. Second, it is relevant to his wife's suicide the month after he resigned. At the conference the next day, he told me of his decision to resign. He did not know of Tennant or the SRV head's decisions, as they were all made independently. He mentioned his wife and getting to spend more time with his family as part of the reason for the decision. I told him that he should not share his vision of hell with his wife if he wanted her to live. We were interrupted by Tennant to resume the next session and never talked much more about it. Richard Dearlove ignored my warning and told his wife in depth about where he would end up in hell if he didn't correct his life. His wife suddenly understood what his life had consisted of, and she was unable to live with the guilt of having been the wife of a man who had ordered people tortured. The pictures of Abu Ghraib were freshly released, and that combined with her husband's confession to her were too much for her to live with. So while it is very close for people to face his intelligence on their afterlife and correct the problems, it requires case-by-case analysis to decide whether it is appropriate to share that information with others. Such decisions are often best made with the help of a competent remote viewer whose advice one is willing to take. One could ask those retired intelligence heads to verify what I say about the U.S. plans to go to nuclear war with the psychokinetic rescue after it. They might try to avoid a direct answer, but they might decide that their soul's health now required them to tell the truth. Certainly, they had adequate knowledge of the classified documents to know the truth of the matter, independent of what I said at that conference, and they have adequate standing in the field of intelligence to make what they say on the matter newsworthy. It is possible that to save the world and their souls in the process, that they will now break ranks with the reverse Christians and speak the truth. I believe that they will will, if given a suitable, gentle opportunity to do so. However, a denial would not carry much weight, as it is just likely more of the hot air of the prevailing wind. All right. Okay, we're going to hop into this next part here that looks like it's freaking Dick Cheney in part 17. Okay, see you in a minute. I'm going to record it right now. Here it comes. Ready? Go. Trigger warning, Dick Cheney's face. I'm sorry. This is part 17. Welcome. Okay, here we go, boys. Buckle in. While the special efforts of Sue Arrigo have significantly affected those who regret their crimes against humanity, there are many who have ignored her profound insight and continue to compound their grave karmic mistakes. Such maniacal psychopaths vehemently refuse spiritual help to their own destruction. There is ample evidence from Vice President Dick Cheney's own declarations and legal position that he is quite personally involved in the serial torture of anyone who will not comply with the Nazi New World Order war plans. His deranged criminal mentality is exposed in Dr. Arrigo's accounts, the most abhorrent recent episodes of which have not been included here. Yeek. Look at this guy. He's a freaking demon, bro. As a coerced CIA asset, I was asked by Cheney in August of 2004 to frame Iran as developing nuclear weapons. Because Cheney was afraid of CIA leaks, he gave me the assignment at a Chinese restaurant in D.C. after hours. It was not the first meeting that I have ever had privately with him, as I acted as a negotiator between him and Tenet. Within the CIA, I had been an outspoken critic of U.S. wars of aggression, its nuclear first strike plans, and breaking of nuclear arms control treaties. I spent most of my life as an operative, risking my life as a remote viewing spy, monitoring and recovering lost WMD. I'm a doctor, and the assignment Cheney gave me was to go to Iran as a physician. Once in Iran, a camera crew would be filming when an Iranian agent would rush in to say that he knew a secret bunker where the Iranian government was developing nuclear weapons. Cheney admitted that the rest of the filming would occur in Hollywood with a mock-up of said lab. Clearly, this was an immoral assignment. There was no way that I was going to have the blood of innocent Iranian women and children on my hands, so I refused. When I did so, Cheney threatened the life of my mother. Since my mother had recently told me that she would rather die than have me be emotionally blackmailed in this way, I held to my no. Amen, sister. During the course of our about 40-minute talk, one of his Secret Service officers interrupted us twice. The next week, when I was kidnapped in Virginia, R-worded, and tortured for 4 days, I recognized the voice of that officer as one of the R-worders. It is an outrage that Cheney is advocating torture. He has already shown by his actions that he will stop at nothing, not even the torture of American-born CIA personnel, in order to get his way. He has a clear conflict of interest in making money off these wars. Are we as Americans going to torture people just so that corrupt officials can line their pockets with oil and war profiteering revenues? Looks like it. Yeah, it does look like it, unfortunately. I was R-worded and subjected to 3 mock executions. When will this U.S. reign of terror end? And that was in 2004. It's 2024, so that is 20 years later, and it seems like everything has gotten worse. Okay, you know who's next, boys. This is going to start getting hairy. Okay, this is going to be part 18 coming up. You better stay for 18, dude. Look who's here. Look who's stopping by. It's our boy, Mr. Scherf. All right, see you in part 18. Let's go. Part 18. This is what you've been waiting for. CIA Oracle. Here we go. At the helm of the U.S. government are a group of maniacal Nazi psychopaths getting ready to push the nuclear radiation button. Why is George W. lying incessantly and threatening to kill off the entire human species? He knows that his father is a serial killer who buys the law and will have him killed if he doesn't do as he's told. George has been traumatized by having been forced from childhood into killing, like his father and his grandfather before him. The trauma-based methodology of controlling CIA assets is somewhat different in the case of Manchurian presidents. Sue Arrigo has retold the extensive history of her close interactions as a mind-controlled slave of the Scherf family, having witnessed and been forced under threat of death to cover up their satanic serial murders, never having known the true identity of her Nazi German torturer, George H. Scherf Jr., alias George Herbert Walker Bush. My fucking hat fell off. We're so disgusted in these Nancys. Here we go. Look, this is our boy. It's our Mr. Sheriff. It's the Sheriff dog. In 1990, I wrote a report for DCI Webster about the national security threat by having biowarfare labs and recommended that they all be closed. The records from the Fort Detrick lab showed that a vaccine against the HIV virus had been developed. It had been given to many members of the cabal at a White House ceremony on a summer solstice in about 1983. The next day, a big lot of HIV-infected units of blood were shipped to kill blacks in a war zone in Africa. The existence of the vaccine was kept secret. That secrecy has continued even after I recommended in my report that immediate worldwide vaccination begin. It was a crime against humanity to infect people with the biowarfare agent HIV. Yeah, I would say so. I would absolutely say so for sure. That's just what we think. Me and Sue, though. But we're nuts. So anyway, under Bush Sr., I was forced to act in my medical capacity in a non-standard way when the White House pathologist died of less than natural causes and had to be replaced. My duties included faking autopsies that carried his signature as if he were still alive. These autopsy reports were used to falsify the causes of death, the location of death, and cover up the crimes committed in the White House torture chamber in the basement. Failure to adequately falsify an autopsy report had led to the death of that pathologist. So it was clear what I could expect my fate to be if I did not do a better cover-up job than he had done. He was a pathologist at Walter Reed Hospital, and all of the autopsy reports that I wrote up attributing the deaths of auto accidents, etc., were on that Army hospital's letterhead. The bodies themselves were incinerated at the White House basement adjacent to the morgue. That the White House was a well-known torture chamber in its basement is not theoretical to me. I have been tortured in it myself. It is directly across the hallway from the morgue, a visible reminder to me as to the necessity for forging the autopsy records skillfully. Although I am willing to take stands that result in my being tortured by the U.S. government, I do so selectively according to an internal cost-benefit analysis that others might not understand. I bet I would understand, Sue. A man has to have a code. Omar Little said it. Sue Arrigo is saying it. Everyone needs to have a code. If you do not, you are not a person, dude. I'm sorry. You got to have a code, man. It doesn't need to come from a god. It doesn't need to come from a priest. It comes from you internally. It comes from you knowing what is right and what is wrong. Okay? So, I would understand, Sue. Let's hear it. During Bush Sr.'s reign as president, I performed 37 autopsies in the White House morgue. Many of those were children. Most of them had been tortured and then ritually killed with a knife to cut their heart out. Additionally, wounds were often symmetrical knife wounds to the chest and belly. Such symmetrical wounds are rarely seen in crimes of passion or even premeditated assaults. They are almost due to deliberate rituals and a satanic nature. To have seen so many of these wounds in a series of patients indicated that reverse Christianity was practiced at that location, a military base not far from the White House. I did at one point discuss the autopsies with then President Bush Sr. in the Oval Office. I politely but firmly said that many of the corpses that I had been receiving in the White House morgue should never have ended up dead in the first place, and that unless there were better controls on how people got there, I predicted that there would be grave trouble. Bush Sr. did not act surprised to hear of the traffic of corpses in the morgue. He was the one that had assigned me to do the autopsies in the first place, nor did he question my report on the number of bodies I was seeing or on the mutilations that were in evidence upon them, which I outlined. He said that he would look into the matter and dismissed me from the room. The number of corpses did go down to about a fourth of what it had been previously, though otherwise there was no change. The mutilations that occurred before death, as judged by standard forensic considerations, continued. Okay, and we're going to finish reading the rest of this part in part 19? Jesus, Christmas. All right, here we go. Come back for part 19. And guys, this is today. You coming? You coming to hang? All right, see you soon. Let's frickin' go! Chapter 19 of CIA's Oracle. We're talking about frickin' Boonch. We're talking about George Boonch, George Scherf. Since I was later forced to take Bush Sr. and Boonch Jr. on a tour of part of Yugoslavia during the war while Clinton was in office, I have more than enough eyewitness testimony on reverse Christianity being practiced by the Bush family, including the killing of others on the battlefield and the eating of their raw hearts as a ritual sacrifice. Such matters are highly unpleasant to mention, and I hope that the reader will forgive me. The suppressed eyewitness testimony of Dr. Arrigo is quite horrific, leaving nothing to the imagination by necessity. Arrigo's courageous web publication of the circumstances of her corporate enslavement by the CIA may well have preserved her life. The unpleasantness of the truth has hidden psychopathic cycles of behavior for long enough, and the time has certainly now come for complete disclosure of the whole ugly truth. The very survival of the human species depends on the critical discernment of a global society traumatized by the false leadership of tortured and hateful individuals like Adolf Schmittler and George Scherf Sr., his son George Scherf Jr., and his grandson George W. After many decades of forced personal interactions with these psychopaths, Dr. Arrigo has identified child slavery and generational sexual abuse in the Scherf Bush family, having also been verified by remote viewing assessment. This is what we've been saying, right? This is why all of the intelligence agencies use this. This is why Diddy has a bunch of little boys around him. They use this to control people. They bring in these young actors and musicians and they say, oh, you want to be in the industry? Well, we got to make sure that you won't tell everyone about all the shit we're going to do. So we're going to do a bunch of shit to you, okay? We're going to do sodomy, okay? We're going to do anything to take away your power and to give you shame and to keep you under control. That's their whole thing. Bush Sr., with his father above left and son at right, had a certain look of boy he liked, like the youngest boy from Leave It to Beaver, Jerry Mathers. They looked like he looked when he was a boy before it happened to him at age 6. He kept on sodomizing kids like his dad sodomized him. His father kept it up much longer than others can imagine. He kept it up until he was close to death. Some things run in families. Yeah, dude. Exactly. This is like... Dude, this is still happening to Bieber. Everyone thinks he's like a superstar. No, he is a forced escort for psychos, okay? You do not wish having Bieber's life. No one does. It's so fucked, man. It's really twisted. Would you want to see your dad if that continued to be what you had to submit to? Dark and ugly secrets that even the principals might not know? What with multiplicity being what it is, Bush Sr., does he even know that he goes to that military base to commit serial murders and why? I leave it to your remote viewing skills and imagination to decide. I was not at the CIA because of my ability to imagine what loose ends there were. I was there to know what loose ends there were, and failing to know could cost me my life and more than that. It is a difficult task for a truly conscionable human being to comprehend the roots of sociopathic behavior. The extreme prevalence of serial killers among Caucasian populations suggests that the Nazi eugenic goal of a pure Aryan race may have been an effort, perhaps unconscious, to create a gene pool more apt to produce psychopathic individuals who operate socially without conscience. The term bloodliner has been applied to psychopathic victims of generational SA, as is the case of the Scherfs, a designation that may be supported scientifically by a genetic predisposition to psychopathy among males with the YY chromosome, rare exceptions to this predominant XY. Otto Skorzeny exposed a multi-generational human reproduction experiment for the Fourth Reich repopulation of North America with secret subterranean Aryan populations exceeding 20 million. Skorzeny reported himself to be one of the elite inseminators for the vast human reproduction experiment, now in its 6th decade, being conducted at the Secret Nancy base in Glacier National Park, Montana, and elsewhere below the bedrock of America. Yes, dude, yes. That is underneath all their gold. They're also doing test tube Nancy Aryans. Yep, they are. That's exactly what they're doing, bro. Taylor, and look, he's a elite inseminator. That's crazy, dude. This is why they all look the same. I knew this was it. It's because they let a couple of the SS generals be elite inseminators, so that is why every single person looks exactly the same, dude. That's why everyone looks like Roger, and everyone looks like Paul Weisopel, and the Clintons do, and dude, they're all a giant, horrible family. Horrible. They're so disgusting, brothers. My brothers in Christmas, Jesus. Look at this. They all are the same because they're literally family, and they do sex on their own family members. Look at this. Look at this nonsense. Dude, Epstein is straight up a cousin. I know it. Officer Brownrigg looks exactly like Epstein. He is a friend / cousin of Epstein. So anyway, that's it for now. We'll see you in part 20. Oh my goodness. All right, here we go, part 20. We're moving on, boys. Okay, we just realized that they have test tube babies in Glacier National Park where they're also hiding the gold. So, Dane, when we break in there, we got to start smashing glass too, okay? All right. Schmittler's entire Nazi Third Reich of 50,000 has been living in secret underground bases throughout the United States, Canada, England, France, and Italy ever since the supposed end of World War II. Hitler and his entire Third Reich of Nazis have been actively planning for their New World Order or Fourth Reich in America at these secret underground bases. The initial 50,000 Nazis have been reproducing like rabbits for the last 58 years. It is estimated there are now more than 20 million Nazis living in America, above ground and below ground, in secret New World Order bases. The 20 million does not include the millions who were secret Nazi sympathizers. American citizens are forbidden to enter these U.S. government-sponsored New World Order Nazi bases under penalty of death. Secret bases include Area 51, Nevada, Camp Hero, Montauk. That's where they brought in all the Nazis, I think, and the U-boats. And then they said, oh, we were able to move. We were able to jump through time here. We were doing cool experiments. But I think that was all to get us to stop looking at Montauk because we were like, no, that's too crazy. That couldn't be real. But yeah, instead I think that they were doing their Operation Pastorius, which the 1942 submarine saboteurs were the first ones. They were some of the first, it was them testing to see if they could sneak onto America and let the FBI just cover for them before they sent 1 billion people there. Yep, these guys. They were the first ones, and then 50,000 came after them, and then they've been also just reproducing like crazy. Remember Austin Russell when he was being Charles Lyons in his weirdo, YouTube video, and he's like, yeah, we like to grill, and, I like to protect my boys, make sure that they're not talking too much about how powerful Nazis they are. But yeah, mostly But mostly we sit around and we yell at each other about having more kids. This is why. Exactly why. Here, I guess I gotta find the fucking third rail thing.
We chit-chat about the news. We yell at each other about more kids.
We chit-chat about the news. Sorry, I was kind of laughing over it, but he goes, we chit-chat about the news and we yell at each other about having more kids. Like, Austie, how are you having kids, bud? Well, test tube kinds? I mean, that's cool. But you should work on loving yourself before you do all this other weird shit, like have massive amounts of Nazi children. That's just me, though, okay? So, anyway, Las Cruces, New Mexico, Wright-Patterson Underground Air Force Base, Ohio, and the secret hollowed-out mountain base in Glacier National Park, Montana. The secret entrance to the Glacier Park, Montana base is circled above. Inside of these forbidden bases lie complete replicas of Berlin, Germany, built within underground rooms the size of 10 football fields that house the stolen Jewish Holocaust cache of trillions of dollars, gold, and gold artifacts. New World Order SS Nazis are allowed complete access to these secret underground bases, these Nancys are encouraged to visit each secret underground base as often as possible. However, no cameras are allowed, and they must sign an oath of secrecy. If they break their oath, they are killed. Part 21 after this. Holy crapola. Jeez Louiser. Oh, Buster boys, I can feel it. We're getting close. This is part 21. Holy crapoli. How much more do we have left? It can't be that much. Only like 3 more. Okay, let's go. Okay, maybe 4. 5? I don't know. I can't count. Okay, guys, here we go. Ready? Let's do it. Let's finish strong. Here it goes. And then it's Documentary Sunday. Let's watch a doc. What do you think? This is EST. Come on. Come on, dude. What the frick are you doing? It's too hot. It's way too hot outside. So you should come inside, hang out, okay? All right, here we go. Buckle in. We're almost to the end, I promise. Holy crap. Each New World Order Nazi is allowed access to the gold rooms. He or she is allowed to wallow or swim in piles of gold coins that reach as high as the ceiling. They're allowed to wear any of the stolen Jewish gold jewelry, including crowns, rubies, sapphires, emeralds, diamonds, at all. The only catch is that you must only wear their underwear while in the gold rooms, and they are allowed to remove any of the stolen gold or treasure from these rooms, nor the underground bases. They're not allowed to. They are x-rayed as they leave the gold rooms and given a fresh change of clothes to put on. Along the streets of the fake underground New Berlin, there are shops just like the real Berlin. However, everything is free there. In this illegal underground New World Order, New Berlin, Tesla's free energy devices are used every day, including Tesla's anti-gravity, optically invisible flying disc. There are at least 500 secret underground New World Order bases around the USA, and thousands more in Canada, England, France, and Italy. There are also underground ski mountains with snow and gondola lifts that resemble the Alps at these secret New World Order bases. It's like an underground Nazi Disney World down there. In these underground New World Order bases, there are Aryan breeding rooms or free brothels. There are thousands of beautiful brainwashed women and kidnapped underage teenage girls from around the country there to service the men. The New World Order Nancys want the seed or sperm from their old Third Reich SS Nancy leaders to implant in their young brainwashed, brainless Aryan baby breeders to help populate their new world with pure white Aryan babies. These babies will grow up to rule the United States of Germany, formerly the United States of America. Skorzeny claims to have made more than 20,000 personal donations. According to Skorzeny, unlimited amounts of free drugs and free German beer are available at these secret Nazi New World Order underground bases. Dude, wouldn't it be hilarious if everyone that we've been looking at is related to Otto Skorzeny? I don't think it is him, though. He's definitely got a line somewhere, though. We got to find him. It's probably what Caleb came from. No. Otto Skorzeny gave these Nazis up at the end. I don't think any of these cowardly YouTuber influencers will ever tell the truth. No way. Because they can't. Because they're diddlers. The vast implications of the confessions of Nazi principal Otto Skorzeny are quietly spreading among the American people through the work of Eric O'Ryan Berman, whose detailed information completely corroborates the testimony of Dr. Sue Arrigo and the hundreds of other published testimonies of the survivors of child torture in covert U.S. government and CIA operations. Berman explains the origins of the well-known nicknames of Bush Sr. as inside jokes, even more revealing of his habits than his first, now famous nickname, Curious George. Skorzeny claims that George H.W. Bush was/is a heroin junkie. He was constantly smacked out to escape his guilty conscience. That's how he earned his nickname Poppy. George's true German identity, George H. Scherf Jr., is insinuated by another insider nickname that has been leaked, Old Kraut, a derogatory term for German sauerkraut-eating people. While both Skorzeny and Berman have expressed hatred for George Scherf, Arrigo responds with pure spiritual compassion for her torturers and handlers due to her clairvoyant previewing of their pain and suffering and future incarnations selected by by the higher self of atonement. Dude, this is what I've been saying. Like, these people are deeply scarred, you know? So it's fucked up and I hate it, but even though they're psychopaths who have been destroying everything and they're trying to ruin everything, the way out of this is showing them compassion, truly. It sucks. I want to spank their heinies so hard. And they're going to get a spanking, but it's not going to be a spanking the way that they would spank us, you know? Because, dude, physically abusing people does not give the intended effect. They want it to make you controllable. But, dude, there's a whole lot of the population that doesn't work on. I promise you I'm one of those people, you know? Okay? So, I mean, let's find out. Come on, Peter. Come on. Throw me in a fucking black site. I'm sick of waiting here. Stop pussyfooting around. Stop messing around with my therapist. Stop messing around with all the other bullshit you're pulling, your black cube BS, all your fucking little weirdo freaks, stalkers, all the people that you have trying to contact my family. Get the fuck out of here. Put me in a black site right now and let's get this fucking done. Let's go. What are you waiting for, you chicken? Chicken shit. How can this chain of generational psychopathic control be broken for the survival of humanity during times of drastic environmental change? The technological solution is ready and waiting to make use of the truly abundant fuels like water and focused infrasound to be holistically employed at pyramid sites by current and future generations. As well, Sue Arrigo provides us with a spiritual solution to dealing with torturers, creativity, and compassion. Torturers are often tormented people who cannot stand change because they are emotionally fragile. That emotional fragility is the result of causing others to be emotionally fragile. Arrigo's perception of how fragile her controllers are themselves allows her immediate forgiveness and compassion response to the extreme pain they inflict upon her. One knows that one is in God's hands and surrenders to that. In some sense, it brings greater peace than one's daily life because one has no choices to make. Everything is out of one's hands and in the hands of God. Really, that is always true, but I am much more aware of it when I am being tortured. Being tortured does not mean that God has abandoned one. Shit, sorry, this has been under me for a while. Pain does not mean that. Suffering does not mean that. So how can one find God's love and care in the midst of great pain and suffering? One finds it by inviting it into your heart to give it to those who harm you. As long as you do not want them to be free of suffering and have it alleviated completely by God, you cannot get God to completely alleviate your own suffering. But at the moment that one says to God, even though I am suffering terribly, please have mercy on these men and relieve their suffering first, then God hears your prayer. You have to be sincere in it. You have to put the welfare of your tormentors before your own welfare. This is the one true path that I have found to deal with suffering and torture. All the saints can tell you that Christ spoke truly and wisely and pointed out a true path to God's mercy by saying, love thine enemy as yourself. Let's go. Part 22. Here it comes. Part 22, boys. Oh, man, we're moving. Here we go. We got just a couple more. Sue expresses the essence of compassionate thought and action by projecting, instead of fear, a deep love for the emotionally handicapped who serially hurt themselves and others. Arrigo identifies an insidious sociopathic cycle that must become widely recognized and understood from a scientific perspective. Analysis of neural activity in psychopaths has revealed significant differences from healthy human function by which psychopaths may be quickly identified. Empathy tests have conclusively demonstrated that emotive response to facial expression is much lower in psychopaths, and that in particular fear is processed quite differently than in healthy individuals. Both groups have increased activity in brain areas involved in processing facial expressions in response to happy faces compared with neutral faces, but this increase was smaller among the psychopaths. By contrast, when processing fearful faces compared with neutral faces, the healthy volunteers showed increased activation and the psychopaths decreased activation in these brain regions. Psychopaths are unable to process the fear and distress of others. Arrigo's torturous lifetime entanglement entanglement with the psychopathic command structure has afforded her several precious opportunities to investigate the system from the inside. Her willful and penetrating investigations from within the Rockefeller archives and CIA databases reveal a genetic control mechanism that has ensured the spread of psychopathic genes within the global Nazi crime syndicate, or as Arrigo refers to it, the family business of the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Hitler, Bush, and Clintons. This slide is from the same CIA computer showing the distribution of the profits from the Contra drug runners. You see there that 47% of the profits from it are going to David Rockefeller and 12% to other Rockefeller family members. Then notice that 11 is going to the Rothschilds, 7% is going to the Bush family, 4% to the Clinton family, and the rest mostly to other families in Skull and Bones and related satanic groups and Nazi families. It is quite curious to find the Clinton family on the list so soon, as Bill Clinton was not president yet. However, reading the book Barry and the Boys, The CIA, the Mob, and America's Secret History about CIA operative Barry Seal helping drop the bags of cocaine into Mino, Arkansas, where Clinton was governor and part of Rockefeller's drug running cover-up, will help explain that. Yeah, dude, he was fucking one of the chosen ones. He, again, I say it all the time, he drove Hale Boggs, a senator, to the airport from which he disappeared from. And this is when he's like a fucking volunteer intern or something. He was working for Hale Boggs, drove his ass to the airport, and then his plane disappeared forever, okay? So all these people are chosen because they will keep silent. They will be quiet about their bullshit, okay? We understand that? Also, if you look at the DNA of some prominent members of the Bush and Clinton families, you find that they are illegitimate children of a Rockefeller. The DNA pictures came across my desk at the CIA because David Rockefeller was trying to figure out how to always have a Rockefeller in the White House without the public knowing about it. The Rockefeller family has a long tradition of sleeping with other people's wives as part of an initiation ceremony into making the husbands part of their business family. The deal is that the Rockefellers will only shower financial blessings on the man after his wife has given birth to a male child. DNA testing has made that easier for the Rockefellers to monitor that aspect of the devil's agreement. Here is a slide showing the Rockefeller genes, distinguishable by this rare distinctive banding pattern on chromosome number 12, and also on these other two chromosomes. Here are those same exact patterns from blood taken from Bush Sr. and Jr., Bill Clinton, and John Kerry, who were all members of the death worship and sexual perversion cult called Skull and Bones. Let's read more about that in a minute. Here we go. Part 23 is coming up. Buckle in. And guys, come on. What are you doing? What are you doing tonight? Let's watch a doc. It's Documentary Sunday, okay? Come here. I can't tell you what it is, but you know where it is. It's a part of 23. It's a part of 23. It's a part of 23. Here we go, my boys. And then this is tonight. Do you understand me? This is tonight in a little bit, like 2 hours. Okay? Here we go. Buckle in. It's happening. The illegal activities of the CIA are a family business. The Rockefellers are related to the Rothschilds by a similar mechanism. The Rockefellers are the American branch of the Rothschilds and only became rich and prominent when the Rothschilds began funding them during the American Civil War. See The Conspiracy Explained about the Rothschilds' maneuvers to start the Civil War in order to prevent American competition to his power. He funded the Rockefellers as his downline to help control America. Dude, everything is making fucking sense. Here is a slide of the DNA showing that the Rockefellers are related to the Rothschilds, and here is a slide showing that Hitler's father was the illegitimate son of Baron Rothschild and Maria Anna Schnickelgruber. The DNA sample for Hitler comes from a semen stain on a piece of clothing kept by a Jewish woman in World War II, rather like the Monica Lewinsky dress. The German Secret Service killed the woman for trying to seek justice, but her underwear were preserved in a later Stasi file as a piece of historical memorabilia from the war. Officially, there was an edict in Nazi Germany against having sex with Jewish women. It was an edict which was variably enforced. Had she been R-worded directly by a Rothschild and not Hitler, she could have gotten hush money, not death, for her troubles. Arrigo's detailed recollection of her previous insider investigations into the CIA-controlled Arrigo's detailed recollection of her previous insider investigations into the CIA-controlled genetic evidence provides us with essential information that will eventually be corroborated by independent findings. These precise details regarding the distinctive chromosome 12 banding pattern of the global crime family members will be an invaluable resource for the future prosecution of their serial genocides, committed consistently for the more than 2 centuries since their global banking monopoly was established. While Arrigo's contention may not be proven for some years, there is much corroboration for her claims in not only the activities of this sordid group, but even hidden in their own beguiling statements. Former presidents George and Bill had a little insider fun with the press, joking about their close brotherhood at a high-priced media event in Toronto, Canada, held on Friday, May 29th, 2009. What did they say? Former U.S. President George W. Bush says ex-President William J. Clinton never criticized him, as both leaders followed similar policies in their tenures. Yeah, they said, we listen to what our daddies say. Our daddy Rockefellers tell us exactly what to do with America, and then we do it, and we make it worse for all the people who live here. That's how it works. The two leaders rubber-stamped each other's policies, agreeing that little differences existed between the two. Bush supported Clinton's silence during the 1994 Rwanda genocide, in which over 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus were slaughtered. Jesus, 1 million people were slaughtered, all by the CIA. Well, the situation was made by the CIA. He backed Clinton's notion by admitting that the quick mobilization of 20,000 troops was not feasible at the time. Clinton, for his part, praised Bush for his diverse cabinet picks. Tickets for a conversation with Presidents George W. Bush and Bill Clinton were sold for $200 to $2,500 as hundreds of opposition had staged a rally outside the heavily guarded venue. Commenting on the financial benefits of the forum, Bush said, President Clinton and I used to believe in free speech, so thanks very much for coming. We are glad you're here. He also called Clinton a brother for the amount of time he spent with the Bush family. Interesting. Alrighty, boys, here we go. We are jumping into part 24 after this, and then we've got we might be able to do it in 24. But probably 24, then 25, and then we're done, okay? And boys, this is tonight. Ready? You want to come hang? I don't know what we're going to do, but it's Documentary Sunday. We're bringing it back. Let's find a good doc to watch. Okay, I love you all. I will talk to you in another minute. Here it comes. No one will ever stop us. Oh, hey, no one will ever stop us. No, nobody will ever stop us. No, they won't. Because they're a bunch of cucks and they're scared little boys. Part 24 up in this mug. Here we go. Let's finish it. Let's try and do it. Ready? All right, this is the genetic testing of the presidents Clinton and compare Clinton, Bush, and all these people, comparing them to Rockefellers. Apparently, they are all Rockefellers. Makes sense to me. The Rockefeller Nazi family. George calling Bill, his brother, may prove to be one of his few accurate claims. Not only are Clinton and George W. both cult members of the Skull and Bones Brotherhood, they are also both direct descendants of the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Playing with the double meaning of words like brother creates a plausible deniability that the global crime family enjoys in public. Absolutely, dude. All their symbols and all this shit, they like doing this in public. Ellen talking about eating pizza on the Grammys or Oscars or whatever. She's talking about eating kids and R-wording kids on national TV. That's what that whole thing was. So this stuff pisses me off. And remember, symbolism will be their downfall. That is the phrase, okay? Here we go. Another famous insider joke that Bush Jr. often plays with media involves flashing the satanic horn hand sign under the guise of supporting a sports team from Texas. While the intentions behind the hand signal of George W. will remain obscured, the genetic relationship between George and brother Bill will certainly become public knowledge, revealing the perverse truths behind their sick insider jokes. The genetic information retrieved and published by Dr. Arrigo at great personal risk will no doubt form the beginning of a more lengthy genetic study of the psychopathic bloodline to its roots in the Ashkenazi ancestral lineage of the Khazars, a Caucasian sect of Jews. No one who thinks that they get to control all of us. And they're not even really Jewish. They just identify as that. They just say they are, I think, because I think at the end of this, they're going to point at Israel and say, look at what these Jewish people did. But it's not Jewish people. They're Nazis. They are the perpetrators of the Holocaust who hid. Truly, they are. None of the Holocaust people who did it, none of the people who did the Holocaust in Germany were punished. Not a goddamn one. Not a single fucking one in my book. Maybe some of the ones that went to Russia. None of the ones that America had control of got anything that was coming to them, if you know what I mean. Otherwise, we wouldn't have all these fucking Nazis running around that still exist. You know what I mean? You know who I'm talking about? Like our president, Peter Thiel, Roger Clay, you know, whoever all these guys' dads are, whoever these guys are and who their kids are now. This is probably Blinken's dad. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe one of them's Nick Kroll's dad. Maybe one of them is Alec Baldwin's dad. Who the fuck knows? All I know is they're all Nazi spies. Look, same with these ones. Him? Remember how everyone tries to pretend like Jeffrey Epstein is Jewish? He's not, dude. They're all just Nazis. They're all hiding Nazis who wanted to make you think that maybe they're Jewish, like Peter Thiel. Like, I've heard that before, that Peter Thiel is Jewish or something. No, he's not. He's a Nazi straight to the core, to the bones. So, I don't know. These guys can eat me, if you know what I mean. I mean, they probably want to. Never mind. I take that back. Strike that from the record. Anyway, where the frick were we? Here we go. One may not find it surprising that the families promoted Aryan eugenics are themselves examples of a genetic line with an inherited neurological deficiency, psychopathy, who must be removed from decision-making positions in society. The attempt of psychopathic human beings to institutionalize psychopathy to the rest of humanity cannot proceed unchecked. Neurological deficiency resulting in psychopathic behavior has governed humanity for millennia. Technological advances can relieve this disturbing influence on human development. Brain scanning during empathy tests can be applied to uproot psychopathy in human leadership. While scientific investors of rebirth may also enable the recognition of advanced capabilities among us, likewise, the teaching of karma and reincarnation can be scientifically applied to recreate our world in that powerful circular awareness, allowing future generations to be free of the psychopathy that has come to dominate world politics and international relations by subversion. Individuals presently entrapped in cycles of slavery and torture may be reborn into a healthy infrasound environment where group telepathy prevents hidden abuse, and the great potential of all reincarnated souls may illuminate the collective human experience. Let's go, dude. All right, I think I'm gonna stop there, and then we're gonna finish it all in the last one. Or here, I'll read one more paragraph. The present shift of the ages signals the return to the life path that the Prime Creator has set out for humanity. With our bare feet in contact with the earth and conscious awareness of the underlying unity of all creation, the quantum physics of resonance and the indigenous ancient wisdom now seamlessly inform humanity of the unfolding planetary shift to a four-dimensional resonance currently bleeding through in a pattern of widening focal points that already create evacuation. Piezoelectric firestorms caused by infrasound are destroying all modern metal machinery in resonant focal areas and at high altitudes, proving all nuclear facilities, warhead stockpiles, satellites, and space stations to be ill-equipped to handle the surging planetary infrasound levels. And we're going to finish it in the last part, part 25. Buckle up, boys. It's about to be done. Say goodbye to Sue. We love her. And come talk to us tonight. We're going to talk. Come on, we're actually going to go over the remote viewing, the results. I keep fucking forgetting to do it in the middle of streaming. Okay, 25, here it comes. Get ready. We're almost done. Part 25, here we are. It is time for part 25. It's the last one. Here it goes, boys. The specific and crucial warnings of spiritual scientists and indigenous elders must be heeded if humanity is to emerge safely from the present threat of global catastrophe. The American people, and indeed the whole world, must inform themselves of the lethal dangers of high-frequency radiation and the currently available resonant health technologies based on Ayurvedic pyramids and the human heartbeat. What? Water purification and treatment with gold and silver colloids must be put to the immediate use of all humanity, including both the free energy and curative applications of HHO plasma. The quadratic function is the universal key to unlimited cosmic energy for the relief of all human beings. What? Dude, what is it? Z sub thing n plus 1 equals z n cubed or squared modulus n. Fuck, what does that mean, Sue? All right, and there's a baby. All of the world's sacred sites, including the Vatican, the Temple Mount, and Mecca, are aligned within the same pyramid, artificial underground realms. All of the world's religions have rebuilt themselves using differing interpretations of what once occurred at these resonant sites, quarreling over divergent terminology. Indeed, it was the strict control of these entrances that has been enforced through religious possession of the sites and the manner of their use. The bioelectric and consciousness enhancing effects of focused infrasound at these sacred sites are, in fact, achieved through resonant architecture using piezoelectric stone in the proper alignment with the precise standing wave pattern projected by the Giza pyramids, expressed as the thing. The power of human thought is found in unity. Let's go! The human enlightenment is already occurring among our children, who are now developing advanced capabilities and accessing memories of their prior lifetimes, signaling a broader awareness that has been accessible to previous generations. Spiritual sensitivity is now ambiently endowed by high amplitude infrasound during a child's development. Ayurvedic wisdom teaches that gold and silver nanoparticles enhance vitality in all life forms by eliminating only pathogenic organisms like viri and bacteria in atmospheric and cellular environments, thereby acting as agents of global atmospheric purification and transformation. The optimal conditions for fetal development are achieved by water birthing in electrum colloids in the presence of a healthy 1.45 hertz heartbeat resonance. The resulting physiological changes include a subtle occipital enlargement of the cranium that reflects a broadening bandwidth of perception, imbuing sensitivity into the infrared and ultraviolet portions of the spectrum. The deepening earth resonance and strengthening magnetic fields allow for reincarnation of advanced spirits among our emerging generations. These infrasound conditions of enhanced gravity facilitate alterations in consciousness by synchronization, resulting in high intelligence, synesthesia, telepathy, and comprehensive use of the holographic capacity of mind. Thousands of children around the world are astounding their parents by speaking of past life memories and advanced spiritual knowledge, far beyond the scope of their present life's experiences. Recognizing these spiritual leaders of the new planetary resonance will facilitate our global transformation toward a peaceful and renewed collective consciousness. For, as the Native American Lakota say, Mitakuye Oyasin, we are all related. Yes, dude, we are all one. Mitakuye Oyasin. Oyasin. Mitakuye Oyasin. Let's go. Dude, fuck yeah. All right, we made it through. Sue, you are a frickin' hero. Thank you for doing this. We needed you. Damn it, was that covering up this part of the screen for the whole time? Shit, I'm sorry. I'm not redoing it, though. Okay, well, look, man, we made it. We did 25 parts. How perfect. It's like it was meant to be. Anyway, thanks, Otto Scorzani, for ratting out the rats. We appreciate you, even though you should have just not done it. But, hey, telling us about all the shit you did and all the shit they did at the very end, instead of making us fucking figure it out, which would have taken a lot longer. We appreciate you. Dude, is this Paul Weisopel's dad? No, just kidding. We know that's Reinhard Heydrich. Okay, well, again, thank you, Otto. I wish you weren't a Nazi. I wish you would have told everyone all about this, like, a long time ago. I wish that you were not a Nazi, but you might be one of the better ones, I guess, because you told everyone. And man, I'm glad that George H.W. Bush is a scumbag and doesn't pay the people that he says he's going to pay, because that's the reason that Otto gave all of them up. So anyway, oh, fuck Otto though, because he was actually one of the 2 assassins who did this guy, Tesla. Yeah, him and Reinhard Gehlen, him. After George H.W. Bush went and stole his shit. Anyway, we did it, boys. Come watch this in an hour and a half, okay? I love you. Bye!